Good evening. Good evening, everyone. To start tonight's event, I would like to introduce Delta K, an Arakwal woman of the Bundjalung Nation. She's here to welcome us to her country. Thank you.
And welcome to Byron Bay. I'm here to welcome you in Byron Bay fashion. So tell me, how many visitors have we here to Byron Bay? Beautiful. My name's Delta K, and I belong here to this country. My people are the Arakwal people, and we belong to the Bundjalung Nation. My people are the carpet snake people, Gubble. The women, our totem, is Wajang, the dolphin. For we believe when we leave this land, our spirit returns to the dolphin. So when you look out in the ocean, say hi to my mother, my auntie, my old people. And our men's totem is Miwing, the sea eagle, for he is our mighty hunter. He will protect you while you're here on Arakwal country. Arakwal country's surrounded by so many beautiful, special places. So my visitors, please take time to stop, take your shoes off, let go your hair, and smell, feel our mother country. And I was just about to tell you the word for woman. For woman is Dubai. Have a go, Dubai. And we have a Beagle here, so I'm going to tell him Beagle. Our country, most important part of country that people come here is the lighthouse area that we call Wolgan. And Wolgan means shoulder in our language. So as you walk Wolgan, think about my old people have been walking that same pathway for hundreds and thousands of years. Look for Wajang, Miwing, Gubble. It's such a special place, a ceremonial area where our people have gone to practice our culture. And you'll see the magnificent mountains. The closest mountain at Mullumbimby, or Mullumbimby, grandmother's country, is our women's mountain. And further afield, lost in the haze, is that magnificent large mountain that when Captain Cook, when he came and sailed past here, he named that magnificent mountain Mount Warning. Little did he know that it's called Wollumban, our sacred men's mountain. Enjoy our country. Be blessed to be here. On behalf of my people, we want to welcome you. Jingi Wallawita, Arakwal, Bumbalan, Bundjalung, Jagoon, welcome.
Thank you so much, Delta. And I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we're here tonight on, the Arakwal people of the Bundjalung Nation. And I also pay tribute and respect to elders past and present. And I'd also like to extend that respect to any Aboriginal or Torres Strait Islander people here in the room with us tonight. My name is Ken Crouch, and as General Manager of Northern Rivers Screenworks, it's an absolute pleasure to welcome you all here to this event here tonight, our Athena Career Forum. And I'd also like to extend that welcome to everyone who is watching the live stream of this event as well. For people who don't know Screenworks, we're a not-for-profit organisation that provides leadership and support for the development of an innovative, vibrant and sustainable regional screen industry in Australia, with a particular focus on regional New South Wales. Each year, we deliver professional development, networking, opportunities, and also services for screen industry workers, and provide support to local and incoming productions in the region. The Athena project is our first project where we'll be reaching out to regional areas all across Australia, and we are extremely proud of the talent that we have unearthed and the program that we are delivering over the course of this week. Screenworks is committed to supporting female filmmakers across Australia, and by delivering this initiative, we hope to increase the number of regional women in lead creative roles in the Australian film and television industry. That commitment to support female filmmakers with this project will continue long after tonight's event, as we embark on a journey with our Athena participants from around Australia as we support their career development over the next 12 months. And I know all of the 12 participants are here in the room, and I'd like to warmly welcome them to this experience that they're about to go on to for the next 2.5 days. But tonight, you are going to hear from some of Australia's most impressive women in film and television, who will be sharing stories of their career successes. They will be providing you with advice on how to advance your career, and you will be hearing from representatives from funding bodies from right across Australia about initiatives that are currently being offered to female filmmakers in Australia. But before we go any further, I have that absolute important task that I acknowledge that the many partners and supporters that have come together to help us deliver this project. Firstly, I'd like to really thank Screen Australia, not only for providing the funding for the Athena project as part of the Gender Matters Brilliant Careers program, but also for leading the push to crush the gender balance issue that clearly exists in the screen industry in Australia. In particular, I'd also like to thank Nerida Moore and Sally Kaplan for being here with us tonight and sharing their stories with us as well. I'd also like to thank each and every state and territory funding body who has joined the Athena project as partners and who have each committed to supporting the participants that have been selected for the Athena project residential program. These include Screen New South Wales, Screen ACT, Screen Queensland, Film Victoria, Screen Tasmania, South Australian Film Corporation, Screen West and Screen Territory. All of their enthusiasm and genuine support for our program has, been quite incredible and overwhelming at times, and I thank them sincerely for their support. I also want to thank Grania Brunston, Tracy Vieira and Annabelle Sheehan for joining us here in Byron Bay tonight, who will also be speaking with us. We've also had some incredible support from multiple partner organisations, including our accommodation and venue partner, the Byron Resort and Spa, and for any of those who are watching the live stream, you are missing out on an amazing venue here. I also want to thank Creative Plus Business and the wonderful Monica Davidson, who you'll also be hearing from tonight, but who has been a part of the Athena project from the inception and has helped us to kind of really build up the program to what it will be over the next 2.5 days. I also want to thank Byron Bay Coffee Company, Husk Distillers and Stone & Wood for their contribution to actually providing an insight to all of our guest speakers by contributing samples of their amazing products to all of them, especially the ink chin. It's also a great time to do a shout out to all of our live hubs around Australia and say a big thank you to all of the organisations that are helping with those. We have live hubs happening in every state and territory around Australia of this event, and it's thanks to Information and Cultural Exchange in Western Sydney, Open Channel in Melbourne, Wide Angle Tasmania in Hobart, Media Resource Centre in Adelaide, FTI in Perth, as well as our government partners Screen Queensland in Brisbane, Screen Territory in Alice Springs, and Screen ACT in Canberra. For everyone who is watching the live stream, or if you're actually in the audience tonight, you can actually join in the conversation via Twitter. Simply use the hashtag the Athena Project to tweet us a question to us. Don't forget the before Athena Project. And also remember to include your name and location because we would like to mention where the questions are coming from. Finally, I want to take a minute to give acknowledgement to our amazing team at Screenworks that has been working extremely hard to deliver this project. I want to thank our board for coming on with us on this journey, as well as our group of volunteers who've provided significant support to our organisation over the past couple of months as we bring this together, and also Samara Finlayson, who's helped us tonight. I want to thank our 2 project coordinators, Louise Hodgson and Melita Firth, both of whom have been an amazing support to us in their office. But finally, a massive thanks and congratulations to Lisa O'Mara, who has managed this project from the funding process to the end, and who I will now hand you back to host for the rest of the evening. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy tonight.
Thanks, Ken. It gives me great pleasure to welcome our special guest speaker. And while I'm the first to admit that this person doesn't need any introduction, it's important to remind ourselves of her achievements. Jillian Armstrong is not only a significant and driving force in the Australian screen industry, but is also one of the driving forces behind the Screen Australia Gender Matters initiative and is committed to supporting women and their careers in the industry. When Jillian directed her first feature film, My Brilliant Career, in 1979, she was the film in almost 50 years. My Brilliant Career went on to win numerous awards, including an AFI for Best Director, and was nominated in the Golden Globes and the Academy Awards. Throughout her career, Jillian has stayed committed to not only the Australian screen industry, but also to telling stories that resonate strongly with women. Her feature films and documentaries include Starstruck, Miss Sophel, High Tide, The Last Days of Shay Nu, Little Women, Oscar and Lucinda, Charlotte Gray, Unfolding Florence, Death-Defying Acts, Love, Lust and Lies, and more recently, Women He's Undressed. Her films have been nominated for Academy and Golden Globe Awards and received awards from the Australian Film Institute, the Film Critics Circle of Australia, the Houston Film Festival, the British Critics Association and the British Academy, and many more. We're so pleased to have you here tonight. Please join me in welcoming Jillian Armstrong to the stage.
Thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Ken. And that was a beautiful welcome to country. Thank you, Delta. There have been a lot of thank yous, so maybe I'll just make a general one. How wonderful so many of our screen government department representatives are here. Although I have to say it wasn't a hard thing to really accept a little trip to Byron. But I think I could not be more excited about this week and the wonderfully talented women who've come from all over Australia, and we hope we can help. So here I am, and this is meant to be my so-called brilliant career, brilliant advice. So looking back at the good and the bad, also called How Did I Get There? First woman director in 50 years. So what can I tell you? I mean, how can I help you? It's hard for anyone to have a film career, male or female. It's a brutal business. To tell you the truth, I really didn't suffer all that much because of my gender, or was it I didn't let it, that was any sexism, hold me back? Let's try and see, and also knock a few old myths right on the head. So to answer how, why me, back to the beginning. Luck. It's actually meant to be a big no-no. Like, women are not meant to say it was about luck because we're undermining our own talent. But there is some luck, and there's timing, I've got to say, in my so-called big career. I don't know if I can give you that, but surely fate gives us all our fair share, but you've got to watch for it and you've got to grab it. So back to good beginnings. Good start, like a good breakfast. Pat and Raoul. Pat and Raoul. Well, that was luck. I can't give them to you, my mum and dad. Pat, the ex-primary teacher who read to us, made us the papier-mâché costumes for my garage productions and loved us, and Raoul, the suburban real estate agent and amateur photographer, who taught us all to print our own photos, and he built my puppet theatre, and he helped cut and frame all our projects and was a driver, runner on my first film. Check the credits on The Roof Needs Mowing. At the end it says R.E. Armstrong. So I thank two parents who brought me up in the, yes, we're talking about the dark days here, the 50s, pre-Germaine Greer and pre the word feminism, to believe that girls could and should do anything, and who supported me and later my risky decision to do something with arts and drama. All my friends became nurses and teachers and secretaries. They've probably done something else by now, but in those days. And out there in the suburbs, we loved books, Life magazine, art, photography, and the ABC and Four Corners, watched with the Sunday roast. Not much football, I'm afraid, in our Melbourne house. It took me many years to discover the Swannies. Go Swans. And more luck, my sixth grade teacher, who let us write and perform our own plays, who advised Mum I had some talent to be encouraged in the drama area. So that set me off to 12 years of speech and drama classes with Daphne Powell from the Mitcham Rep, who'd be pleased to see me up here now trying to remember how to speak properly. And she took me to see my first real play at the MTC. Very handy training for a drama director. No, I'm not a frustrated actor. Self-awareness. You need that. No false dreams. I knew I wasn't an actor. I knew I wasn't actor material, and you can tell. I could hear my squeaky voice, see those too thin lips, which are covered up at the minute with huge lipstick. I could see myself pathetic, and I could see talent in others. Maybe that was the beginning of, my talent as a director. Mr. McQuillan, my teacher, mentor. What luck I had him. I can't give him to you, but Kate McQuillan, who's here as one of the mentors, got him as her dad. And I've got to say, I just thought it was random that we had such fun doing plays in grade 6. Later on, I got a letter from dear Mr. McQuillan after my brilliant career opened to say that he went on to be the head of drama in schools. So, it was luck and timing. It was that, I had someone who's so passionate about drama who told my mum. Okay, Miss Bossy Hard Work, my nature. I can't give you that. Yes, I was a boring, conscientious hard worker, perfectionist. The type that was always form captain. Maybe that showed early leadership qualities. Maybe I was just being a goody two-shoes, and as a big sister, I was used to being the boss. So directors are leaders. They direct. I don't know how to give that to you, but never force it. And perfectionism is good to have, but watch those details. It's good to have, to watch details, but just don't go mad and never, ever, ever finish. I have seen that happen. Okay, so the first myth about the woman that makes it, cutthroat ambition. The first woman would be expected to be extra driven, pushy, tough, loud, cutthroat, full of nasty ambition, word for girls, good word for boys. That's why the press wrote, she's a lot smaller than we expected, or the man on location, my first AD, seemed to be doing all the shouting on the megaphone. Yes, please, shouting my orders. No, directors need steel. They need passion and vision, but they can be quiet and they can be steely achievers. Just look at all the nerd directors, Woody Allen. Second myth. Directors are inspired by boyhood's dreaming at the movies. Why would I think about being a director? As there were no actual female role models and no Australian films at all in the 1960s. I keep saying this to remind you all how lucky we are that the government did decide to fund the arts and must keep doing it. Just a little thing on the side. My daughter told me not to go off on the rant, so I'll never finish. So yes, what did I see? I saw ABC TV dramas, which were good, and Crawford cop dramas. Not really my thing. But I was dreaming. I was dreaming under the bed, reading books. Myth 3. There are family showbiz contacts. It's all about networking. No, girl from the outer suburbs at a very ordinary secondary school, my art teacher said, films. We'll now have a film. So back to why me. Perhaps it's finding what you love to do and what you're good at. For me, that actually took some time. Art school, 2 film schools, working in crews from script assistant, set dresser, runner, art director and assistant editor. Oh, and the 5 months waitressing and door knocking to even get into the film industry. 6 or so shorts, 4 or 5 small documentaries and a 50-minute drama. I'm a slow learner. but I wanted to learn. Plodding onward can be good. It's a slow, detail-based craft. Myth 4, the clever plan. I didn't have a plan. I worked quietly and slowly and later sort of blundered into film via the only course for theatre design in Melbourne at that time, part of Swinburne Art and Film School. And during my 4 years diploma, I finally found my passion, visual storytelling. Advice? Art school was great training for pushing the boundaries, using your imagination and finding your own voice. So that was luck again. And in the 1970s, it was a much more open, liberal environment. Girls mattered, more than at uni. It was at the end of my diploma in film and television, at this very under-resourced first film school in the country, having tried theatre and costume design for a blink and realised I only had 5 ideas, and then tried photography, animation, editing, cinematography, film history and creative writing, I realised that actually I was incompetent at all of them, but my talents sort of came together as a filmmaker. And I could have competent people doing all that rest of that stuff, the technical stuff. So yes, photography, stories and actors and acting, boom, that meant movies. So not ambitious, very naive, but searching, trying and testing and assessing all those areas. That was important. Filmmaking, bringing all those pieces together to affect an audience. Now that was inspiring. That was a challenge, and it still is. And I am still learning every film, every time. And I still keep getting it wrong. So how did I get there? It took another 8 years. Well, David Michaud was writing Animal Kingdom for 7 and Baz Workshop Strictly Ballroom for 4 years or more. Really, finally, it is about making a great film. So how do we do that? Starting with a great short. It takes a lot of practice. It's a craft and an art. And that takes boringly good old perseverance and resilience, falling over, getting up again, and learning from mistakes. And passion. And a little bit of luck. It also takes some talent. And if you're a woman, 10 times over. There was a lot of fuss when the production of My Brilliant Career was announced in 1977. I soon discovered, I never really thought about it until it was pointed out, that I was the first woman to direct a feature film in Australia for 50 years. The wonderful McDonough sisters wrote, starred, directed and produced their own successful films in the 1930s until our industry was taken over by Hollywood and went bust. So, first woman. There was behind-the-scenes chat. Like, will it cut together? Will she collapse out there in the dust? And so on. Translated. A director needs to be physically strong, needs to understand technical, ungirl-like things like cameras and editing, and not tripping over leads. My very tall, strong friend, Philip Noyce, was directing his first feature that year too, Newsfront. Nobody said the above about him. We were both recent award-winning graduates from the AFTR's inaugural year. There were 10 boys and 2 girls. A first feature is a lot of pressure for anyone, but unlike Phil, I also had the entire pressure of all women in film. I have told this story before, but maybe some of you haven't heard of it, and maybe some of you just, grown up. I just got out of primary school since I last told it. I realised if I stuffed up, it wasn't that Jillian Armstrong couldn't direct, it would be that no women can. Advice? Well, looking back, I think I actually had a natural sense to block all that out without drugs or alcohol and get on with the job. Focus, blank out stress is a good piece of advice, by the way, to all first-time directors and second, because it never gets any easier. So I just did my best, as Mum always said, worked hard and luckily had a fantastic supportive producer, Margaret Fink, and an amazing team and cast that we found. Yes, there's always a bit of luck, but I think if I hadn't liked Margaret, because I was being offered other features with male producers, And if I hadn't liked the script, I wouldn't have signed up. I mean, it was a huge thing, a big film for a first-time director, and lots of people said that. It was risky. So even if it was an amazing break, I'd say my advice now would be trust your instinct about the team, despite temptations like they have the money. I didn't realise how an unsympathetic producer could destroy you, the creative process and the film, until many years later when I had one. Producers, now that's a key. The unsupportive, overpower-hungry, controlling ones can truly undo you, male or female. That is, male or female director, male or female producer. And Margaret and I really shared the same taste. Myth 5. Women don't work as bosses. Woman boss issues? No, and we actually had 3. Margaret Fink, Jane Scott, who's a line producer, and me. They set me up with a top crew who all became teammates, as you do, bumping around in dusty vans on location surveys. Was I nervous? Yes, but not about those 50 or so men. Looking back, the good crew I had, and Dad's education decision. I was very used to working with men. I went to a co-ed school. I had a brother. I was used to blokes up the back farting. It just, it was never a worry. And I knew they needed leadership. I had no trouble, only support. If anything, there was less respect and more trouble from female crew in production and continuity. They were the ones unnerved by a female boss. Perhaps they were used to being the only gals in the village. Prepare, do your homework. Myth 6, yes, all women achievers do. They work harder. No partying at the bar, no romancing the leading man or lady, shot list and early to bed, alone. Prepare and still listen to those who know more, who have got a better idea that you like. And hardest of all, try and hang on to your vision and the heart of the story, despite all the budget and time constraints that are part of every film, big and small. I heard even Ridley was having issues when he was shooting in Sydney. Everyone was surprised. Yes, you don't get all the money, ever. No matter, it can be bigger, but it's still never enough. Or maybe it's because we're the old perfectionists and we want more. And hardest of all, yes, is doing this and hanging on to your vision and protecting and trusting your actors and keeping open communication, but get what you want. Remember to trust your instincts, but treat people well. That's what gains respect. I've actually got my Oscar and Cinder continuity person here, Victoria. You can now yell out, idiot, bullshit. No need to posture or throw around power, says Jill. I didn't, did I? It's about making the best decisions and sadly, so often the best compromises. And you will be supported by people like Victoria, who will whisper in your ear when you're tired and you're about to give up and say, go on, let's get one more take. So thank you. How lovely to see one of my crew here. Because you never get the right weather or enough time. So together, on my brilliant career, back to that, with my wonderful DP and first AD, we tried to do this creatively when the weather and time and budget seemed to defeat us. And yes, it did cut together. My brilliant editor and I were and have become a team, a long-time team, Nicholas Bowman, and our producer gave us good and constructive feedback. And yes, there were things I stuffed up. Of course, I'm a perfectionist and there are things I can't look at, but mostly we covered it up. Sound, music, whatever. Myth 7. The distributors are men and they think like men. True. There had been some rumblings behind the scenes that this was a risky project commercially because our heroine and our hero did not end up happily together ever after. And that's what women want in the movies, said our male distributors. Yes, there is industry-ingrained sexism. Male distributors and broadcasters deciding what stories appeal to women. Our line of diplomacy, you always need that, was that our heroine has a line, not now, to Harry, so the true romantics could think maybe one day in Paris. They'll see each other across a crowded street. But our brave distributor at Greater Union, David Williams, Kim's father, turned to me at the end of the screening and he said, "You were right, the end works." Not all men in power have to win. He trusted his instincts. Looking back, good old originality. This turned out to be one of the keys to the film's worldwide success. The girl said no. The irony was that My Brilliant Career was actually turned down by then Film Australia, who said audiences were bored by period films, and we said, but ours is different. Now, I always say there's no rules. If it's a good story and if it's original, you're in with a chance. And made well with the right team and passion and belief, but no one ever really knows what will take off big time with audiences. It is finally up to the audience and luck. So timing and luck again, sorry. None of us had any idea that this female-centred film would one day be selected for competition in Cannes or be such a hit worldwide with women and men. But we believed in the story and we fought for it and we fought to make it great with the best of script and cast. So my advice, whatever type of film or TV show, comedy, drama, horror, love, action, you have to be different. You have to be better, and it has to capture people's imaginations. Key tough decisions. Along the way, there were some tough decisions. We brought in a script editor to our writer's concern, and we changed a key member of cast at the last minute. And I think, looking back, I would have been too nice and too inexperienced, maybe it is a girl thing wanting to be liked, to have done either without the support of my experienced producers. Looking back, you have to get the cast and the script right. Never compromise. Get help before you shoot. Producer and director have to be on the same page or else it's tears. Show business is tough. People may be upset for a short time. In the end, a failed project helps no one. Be fair, be ethical, but trust your instincts. Never stop making it better. We worked hard to make a good film of this wonderful book written by Miles Franklin in the Outback in 6 weeks at the age of 16. Its success was beyond our wildest dreams. Myth 8. Success breeds success. Yes. Nobody ever after, here or in the USA, cared if I was a woman. Never again did they worry that I might fall over in the dust, the mud, the rain, the ice or snow. And I often did. I'm talking to the physiotherapist about it now. I had made a commercial and artistic hit, everybody's dream. And in the USA, women in film who met with me said, "You have made a film that looks big. Thank you from us." Because the view there then was women only make little films, kitchen sink dramas, not real films. Okay. But forever, I have been offered stories set in the past about women achievers. Stories about women as though I have no interest in men at all. And I have fought the label woman director. Why can't I just be Jillian Armstrong director? We are not all the same. And male critics. Perception. They always think women directors want to attack them, and all men. I, after a while, thought, should I just put G. Armstrong on the end? And then they would just judge it as a film, not go in thinking, what is this woman saying about me? And the huge lack of women critics. But I could go on and on, that's another story. It was certainly good for my own brilliant career, and I assumed it would be good for the incredibly talented Australian women who followed here in our much more open, government-funded and supported industry. But a year ago, I stood at the latest launch of the Afters Lumina magazine and I heard the most recent survey of the percentage of women directors currently in our industry, and I was appalled. Like most of us, I thought it must be now at least like 45%, but no. 35 years after my brilliant career, I'm horrified that there are still only 18% of film and TV dramas in this country directed by women. A little less, actually, in the US and the UK. This is despite Jane Campion, Kate Shortland, Samantha Lang, Jocelyn Moorhouse, Jennifer Kent, and many others who've forged amazing careers in films. And that the numbers of young female film school graduates and short film award winners has increased. And our female TV directors are consistently hitting high ratings and creaming the awards. Offspring, The Slap, Secret River, Glitch, Dana, Emma, Jess, Hobbs. And yet, appallingly, any concept of equality post all these amazing female director role models, 82% of film and TV dramas are directed by men, which is a better way to think about it. 82 are directed by men. Young women now attend film schools in equal numbers. They win short film awards and then they disappear. So why? Where are they? Let's face it, there is something deeper going on. It is truly not a level playing field. It's bloody time to fight for greater gender diversity. No more talking, act. And the Australian Directors Guild did. We formed a Directors Guild Women's Action Committee, and last year, with men and women, and we went to lobby for change, and we are so delighted that Screen New South Wales, Screen Australia came so quickly and enthusiastically on board. We're here tonight funded by one of their many gender initiatives. That's Sally, you know what I'll say. Continue. Women creatives need to be extra nurtured, supported and showcased. Just as Screen Australia's wonderful Indigenous initiatives was so fruitful, but it takes time. And producers, male and female, have to step up. Every head of a production company and TVC house need to make sure there is a woman properly considered every time for every job. Check the list, check a showreel. Broadcasters need to be reined in. Forget our right and our daughters' right to hear and see a female point of view. It makes commercial sense. We are the greatest audience and market for TV and film and ads. How can we do this? Can you believe that, this is just a little, Jill Armstrong aside that I'm not meant to be doing. Can you believe that everyone merrily accepted that for many years the male head of ABC documentaries was only interested in men's history and war stories? It was actually a battle to get him interested in investing in my award-winning documentary series, Love, Lust and Lies, because he doesn't, as I heard behind the scenes, he doesn't like women's stories. And no one questioned this, and he was there for 8 years. If it's taxpayers, our money, they must be brought to task. Perhaps we need to start a check the talent list movement. Let's call it give a girl a leadership break. But that talent has to be prepared and it has to be ready. Advice? Find out what you're good at and what you love doing. Be tough. Maybe you need a writer. Maybe you're better at documentary or reality, not comedy. I soon realised that there were better writers out there than me. Maybe you are more the ideas person or the initiator, not the director. God, we need good, innovative producers. It's so, so hard. Find your own voice. Be brave. You can't be ordinary. Be unique. Be different. Push. Imagination and boundaries. Find stories that are close to you. Passion does win through. You learn by making, practice. It's a craft. Today, you can shoot a story, on your phone. You can edit on your Mac. You can distribute it online, on YouTube. It's all ideas and doing. And I'm so sorry we've taken money being here tonight, and my airfare could have funded another short film. So many of the crafts can be learnt online. Watch Erin Sokin's screenwriting class or Steve Zalian on the wonderful scripting of The Night Of. Watch and analyse the world's best cinema and TV without going to film school. Find your team. We all need the support and inspiration of that team. Understand the power of the image and of character, real characters, not the cliche. It's about taste and judgment. How to know what's good and bad. Start watching and learning. The best of world cinema. God, we groan, sometimes we doze off, but 3 years of the world's best cinema screenings in our film history classes at Swinburne every Tuesday morning was actually life-changing. I think drowning yourself in the best finally rubs off. It sharpens your own taste and judgment, and they, as a director, are your 2 key skills. We saw ourselves as filmmakers, not directors. You may say very idealistic. It was about expressing ourselves as visual artists and the power of the story, not about getting to the red carpet in Hollywood and the money. Yeah, we were naive. For me, the big world wake-up, the gender issue, only finally appeared when I left Swinburne and tried to get my first start at the ABC, and some of you might have heard this little story, sorry if you had, but yes, all the boys were applying to ABC camera, sound, floor managers, assistant editors. I get a letter saying, no, sorry about your short film, you should report to the typing pool, that's where women start. That's why, I always get a good reaction, that's why I keep telling that story. My response, yes, was disappointment and, yes, a bit of anger, but more, now looking back, was resolve. I will do it without him. How do you do that in sign language? I never went back to the ABC, except when it was my own work. And I never really learnt to type. Probably should have. Getting a job, it's all about your creative work. Mentors, yes. The wonderful Fred Skepsey was one of ours at Swinburne. I was a tea girl on Libido, but I was really too frightened to even get out of the kitchen, except to give people their tea and coffee. I was worried I really might trip over all those cables. But it was good. I could see the crew and the cast respected and adored him. And I did get the courage on the last day to ask for further contacts because I was moving to Sydney. And later I got great advice, follow editing, it's more creative. If you're a script assistant, you may never, ever, ever become a director. And after all that waitressing and no hope, the lady at the 729 Club dining room actually gave me the great advice, don't tell them you don't have experience, Jill. So, and I think now, maybe that is a gender issue. Girls are too honest. We're less likely to bullshit. And I practiced the bullshit after that, and I did get a job. Later in the real world, editing and working was a real wake-up call, and I realised that very few ever get the chance to make things that they actually believe in, and I wanted that. And so I've got to say it was just, again, such luck and timing that I'd had that year learning that, and I saw the ad for the first year of the Australian Film and Television School, which was, the most well-funded year they've ever given. And, we got to make 3 films in 1 year, and my film from the Alan Marshall short, 100 a Day, earned me many awards and became my calling card. Networking, the film school helped us. They set up screening for industry groups. Truly, up till then, I knew nobody except the wonderful people at the little place where I was editing. And the positive feedback from the screenings was so uplifting and confidence-building. And, directors need that. People forget we're actually incredibly vulnerable. We all think our work is terrible, and writers too. People approach me, and it was the beginnings of a real career. Okay, so I made that stand out short. Did that lead immediately to a feature? No. I knew I had so much more to learn, to shoot, to practice, to make. It was 1973. My brilliant career was my first feature was 1978. So do make sure you are ready. But looking back, I made a 50-minute drama grant after all that, The Singer and Dancer. I took a year off on the dole. I don't know whether I'm allowed to confess that now. I might, be sent to jail. But you do have to make economic sacrifices, and you couldn't do that anymore. They wouldn't let you. But it was a great way a lot of us were funded in the arts, thanks to the unemployment office. And it was that 50-minute drama was the best way forward to a feature, I think. And I've been thinking about it. I really think it should be reintroduced by Screen Australia. It was the best step up to TV or film directing and to TV drama, which really is our new growth industry. Feature dramas are shrinking worldwide. There are low-budget indies or big action cartoon genre films. The more serious dramas and the smart comedies have gone to TV. Brilliant, brave, risk-making stuff. If you're not interested in genre, this should be your focus. Okay, this is now a summary. Key advice, persistence, passion. It does mean economic risks and all easier if you are young and you're not paying off the mortgage. It is obsessive and it is selfish. You need generous and patient partners. And I have to say I really lucked out big time on that. I don't even want to say how I really basically would not have had a career without finding Mr. John. But I feel sort of so guilty because I feel like I'm just standing up here as a bag of lucky tricks. But I want you all to find a John. I mean, every male director's got a wife. We always used to say you just need a wife. No, John's more than a wife. I'm sorry, he's an award-winning editor. Sorry, Annabelle knows him. You need resilience. And finally, hanging on to self-belief. Now, self-belief is perhaps the hardest thing for those talented young female directors and writers who don't get their foot in the door in their first years out of film school, who watch the boys be headhunted by commercial production houses and go from strength to strength and make and learn and get paid, win more awards, and then the boys are offered that TV series or feature film. Think of Glendon, think of Garth. So it's hard to sustain self-belief if you're a young woman director who may have won short film awards and you haven't got the money to pay the rent and you're actually applying, as my daughter currently is, to places like Aldi to see if you can be a checkout chick. Our top-heavy male-dominated TVC industry with boyo creatives goes looking for fellow boyos. There's a few boyos up the back, get into it. To do gross-out boyo ads and Tropfest-style gross-out hipster gags with girls in subordinate and negative roles. I ask, are they really working, these ads? Are they selling to us, the other 50% of the population? Let's wake up the advertising industry. There are 92 men directors working for production companies and 8 women. Where are all the female creatives and writers in advertising? The British Film Institute industry survey said sexism is there and unconscious, and it's real and deep. Investment is risky, so they hang on to a belief that a director is a man in a baseball cap. It's an unconscious bias. Let's make this conscious. Let's help the talented girls get more practice, more shorts, make sexy show reels, meet good producers and investors, and yes, think about bringing back the 50-minute indie, brave original dramas like Singer and Dancer without the networks all over them. I did not need or want a man on my set mentoring me. Let's find ways to get many more in the door. This is a serious gap that must be addressed to finally give the girls in baseball caps, I always wore one, a break, so that we can all see and hear that rare thing, an unconscious female bias in our stories. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Jillian. Can I use the word brilliant? That was brilliant. We're very honoured to have you here with us this week supporting our Athena participants and sincerely appreciate your speaking and inspiring us here tonight. Thank you. Throughout the year, we've been hearing about many initiatives and programs being delivered by our federal and state funding bodies. So we thought it was incredibly important to hear about how many of the funding bodies are supporting the push to address gender equity in the Australian screen industry. One of the key drivers has been Screen Australia and their incredible Gender Matters program. To tell us more about the programs they are offering to female filmmakers, please welcome Screen Australia's Head of Production, Sally Kaplan, and Senior Development Executive, Nerida Moore.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you for such an inspiring speech, Jill. You did. We couldn't stop you, but no, it was fantastic, and I don't think we should stop. And actually, one of the things you said before I get onto the nitty-gritty of what we're doing and what opportunities there are for you all, and particularly regionally, is Jill talked about unconscious bias, which is like my big thing at the moment, and people keep saying, oh, well, it's not so bad, and oh, well, now you've done these initiatives, it's great, and it's like, no, it's got to go on and on and on. And somebody actually said to me recently when I was in Toronto Film Festival doing a panel, oh, what are you doing a panel on? And I said, oh, it's gender equality. And she said, oh, yeah, it's getting a bit boring now. I said, no, this was a woman. And I said, no, it will be boring when we're at 50-50. That's when I'll be bored. And there was another panel, because I do a lot of these panels, because I get twitchy if I don't do one on gender equality, where there were 3 women on the panel and 2 guys, and actually really lovely guys. I mean, you know, I'm nothing against. One of them was a producer that I knew particularly well because we'd just done a film with him, and I was talking about unconscious bias, and he's saying, oh, Sally, you know, my last film, there were 80% women in key roles, and I said, no, I'm sorry, I don't, you know, it's a big audience, you don't want to embarrass him. I said, sorry, there was a male director, a male writer, 3 male protagonists, and you. And he was like, yeah, but we had a female line producer, and she was really good, you know. And that's when you go, and I think I said to the audience, I think that was unconscious bias, because I mean, he genuinely didn't get that. Anyway, sorry, asides. But thank you so much, Jill. That was so inspiring, and I'm sure you'd all agree. And there's so many things there that I'd like to pick up on, but we don't have time. So anyway, okay. As you probably know, and I hope this isn't going over old ground, but I'll say it anyway, as we had the same experience as Jill when the Luminar report came out, and we were actually in the middle of doing our gender equality report ourselves, and it was shocking, and it wasn't unconscious bias, but it was just unconscious. Why didn't we know that? And we thought, God, Screen Australia, are we part of the problem? What, you know, how could this happen? Because we were surprised, and thinking about it, I'm not sure why we were, to be honest. So, and then our research got finished, and we looked, oh my God, it's true. And we thought, oh, are we part of the problem? And so we actually then had to do an analysis of all the applications that we'd got. And horrifically, despite what Jill was saying, you know, roughly 50% coming out of film school women, the applications we were getting were representative almost, only slightly more than the statistics we're seeing, like only 60% of film and TV directed by females. So we're saying, well, we can only react to what's coming into us, so what can we do to make it easier, to make more people want to come in and to try and take away the bias where women encouraged. So we came up with this Gender Matters, and it wasn't me or Nerida, but one of our clever people came up with the idea of the brilliant careers, brilliant stories, brilliant deals, etc. So again, that was a big nod to Jill, who'd been very vocal at the time about it, and rightly so. So basically, very quickly, there were 5 prongs. The first one was kind of easy, and we weighted our assessment criteria. It was not overwhelming. It wouldn't be just if you tick all these boxes, your project's going to get money in development and it's all going to be fine. Then the bigger things were the brilliant stories, where we got rid of all eligibility, the brilliant careers, which was incredibly well supported. We actually got sort of record-breaking, nearly 500 applications, which was difficult but worth it. And I remember we have an online system so you can see who's applying, and at one time we thought we might get 1,000 applications. So when the close date came, and a lot of people get so far and then go, oh God, this is no, not for me. So when it came up and it was less than 500, we were going, oh my God, it's only 500, that's fantastic.
It did represent about 4,000 women
It
across
did.
the board.
Oh, thank you.
Just saying.
So basically out of that, I think there were 48 brilliant stories, so 48 new women teams. Not all new, but we made sure there was a mix of new, and by dropping the eligibility, we got some really extraordinary applications from people that we did know of, but were in completely different fields or had never directed or produced, but were in the arts. Careers, I think we had something like 117 applications, and there are 13 that were awarded, and I'm actually very happy, and congratulations to Ken and his team, because this is actually the first one that's happened. So this all started to begin in January. We had to make the decisions quickly by June for financial reasons that I shan't really go into. So, I mean, amazingly quickly, Ken and his team put together a fantastic application which embraced, we were saying, you know, not every careers application can be rural, but regional, but we want to see more of a spread. And so it was fantastic. It was well thought through, and they've carried on with that momentum. And here we are today, and it's our very first launch. So I think big clap to all that lot. And then before Nerida goes into a bit more detail about the brilliant careers, because there's some opportunities for everyone here, I just want to mention the other two parts of it were Brilliant Deals, which is a scheme, which is a pilot scheme, which is trying to incentivise distributors, who, as we all know, are mainly male run in this country, to look at projects with women teams that we will give matching monies to. And then the final thing was a female attachment, which is different from the ADG, is saying what we're basically saying is if you get more than 500,000 or more from Screen Australia, you must have a woman attachment. And it could be in any, you know, it's got to be a meaningful role. It could be behind the camera, in front of the camera, you know, it's all kind above the line, below the line, there's all kinds of possibilities. Anyway, I'm just going to hand over now to Nerida, who's got some really interesting news about some of the other brilliant career applications, and where some of we're focusing on the ones that may have opportunities for all of you rather than the more state specific or more company specific. Thank you.
So I get to do the list, which is the really boring part. So I'm going to skim through this, but I can see some of you have got your notepads out. And for those of you who are watching online, make notes and Google some of the keywords and you'll find some of the information online. So I'm going to focus just on 4 opportunities tonight, though we did fund so many, 13 brilliant careers. So these are just some of them. So I'm going to talk about the Australian Directors Guild, and Jillian, please correct me if I get anything wrong, because you guys put it together and I'm representing it. We're also going to talk about the Endemol Shine opportunities, the Natalie Miller Foundation Brilliant Careers Leadership Program, and I'm just going to go into a little bit more detail about the attachment program that we've got running with the production investment section. So the Australian Directors Guild has got 2 programs running. One of them, the television commercials mentorship program, which ties in beautifully with what Jillian was talking about. In terms of sustainable careers, women need to be in the commercial sector and be jumping between features and television and TV commercials. Sorry. Jub told me if you get nervous you have to bend your knees, so I'm about to bending my knees. So this opportunity is open at the moment. It's going to close on the 30th of November. The eligibility is basically that you have to have some directing experience. This is going to give 7 emerging female directors the opportunity to go and spend time in television commercial companies, to be mentored, to have opportunities potentially to do some production in there as well. So that's awesome. So 30th of November. How many weeks away is that? 2? Write that down. We don't have a timing on this yet, but the Australian Directors Guild Shadow Directing Program is hugely exciting. What they've done is they've gone out to a number of production companies and got their buy-in to allow 12 emerging directors over the next 2 years to get credits on drama series, which is so important if you want to break into the industry, to have those credits to get the cachet and the traction with the broadcasters moving forward. So we're still talking to the ADG about the timing on this, but I think in the next 2 weeks you should see some guidelines released. So that's going to be fantastic. Endemol Shine with Imogen Banks and Alice Bell. What an amazing duo they are. This is also open at the moment. This is an opportunity for 12 new writers from around Australia. The budget does have travel money built into it, so it is really from around Australia, are going to be invited into writers' rooms, and ideas from Genesis are going to be worked up to network pitch stage. Applications for that close on the 1st of December. The Natalie Miller Fellowship Careers Leadership Program is going to be a one-day conference for 100 participants. There's also going to be with that roundtable dinners held in each state and territory. So there'll be a call out for expressions of interest for around Australia for women to put in for these mentorships. There will be dinners held with mentors where you'll get to know each other in little cohorts of people and little networks we're hoping will form. And then there will be ongoing mentor opportunities after that. Again, we're still working on the timing of that, but watch this space, hopefully in the next month or so. And the last thing which I'm going to talk about is the attachment program, which Sally mentioned, which is involved with our production investment program. So if we invest over $500,000, we have created a fabulous problem for producers in that they need somebody to come on as an attachment. So that is above the line as a writer, producer, director attachment, or below the line with the head of department. So this is an awesome problem that we have created. Sometimes we create bad problems. This is a really good problem that you guys can be the solution for. So if you package yourselves and if you look at who is getting the opportunities and who's getting the funding through the Screen Australia website or through the state websites, you can potentially go and offer yourself as a solution to this problem that we've created. These are paid attachments, so when they come into us and they want production investment, in the budget they have to have a line item where they have a paid attachment up to $20,000. And the way that we model it out means that there's also travel money in there potentially as well. So this is an Australia-wide opportunity. So yeah, that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sally and Nerida. The work that you've been doing is incredibly important, and we're very proud to be delivering the project with the support and funding from Screen Australia's Gender Matter program. Thank you. In New South Wales, Screen New South Wales has been introducing programs and initiatives, including their 50-50 by 2020 target. And to tell us more about these programs and initiatives, please welcome Screen New South Wales Head of Strategy and Industry Development, Grania Brunson. Thank you, Grania.
Hi everyone. I was at a diversity panel discussion a few weeks ago at AFTRS where it was revealed that the average person working in the screen industry in Australia is a 27-year-old white male who lives in Bondi. I can't tell you how pleased I am to be in a room full of people from the screen industry where nobody meets that description. So going back a year, like Screen Australia, like Jill, like ADG, we looked at the Lumina figures and thought, okay, we've got to do something about this. We announced a target of 50-50 by 2020, and it's part of an open-ended policy commitment to deliver gender equity and raise the profile of women in the screen industry in New South Wales. The stats that inspired us to introduce this speak for themselves. We're all familiar with them and the terribly low numbers of female key creatives in feature films. And of course, it's not just an issue here, as Jill's talked about. Similar figures are echoed around the world. News of our target was picked up here and around the world because we're taking action on what is an international problem. Ken. No? Okay. Here we go. Also in November 2015, Jungle Boys, the TV production company behind Upper Middle Bogan, No Activity and Here Come the Habibs, and a plethora of TVCs, changed its name to Jungle. The renaming and the rebranding coincided with three initiatives: the promotion of Chloe Rickard to partner and head of film and TV production, a commitment by Jungle to employ at least one female in writing, directing or producing on every project, and the launch of a female creative talent program called Operation Sheena, Sheena, Queen of the Jungle, in collaboration with Screen New South Wales. Sheena saw us partner with Jungle to co-fund a director's attachment on No Activity Season 2, and that director has now gone on to be in their slate of directors who works on their TVCs and other productions as well, and a writer's attachment on Here Come the Habibs Series 2. The Jungle and Screen New South Wales collaboration had ripples out into the very blokey advertising landscape too. Significantly, they're a leading ad agency as well as a TV production company, and the dropping of boys from their title came just days after Leah Burnett was criticised for announcing their lineup of new creative leads with, guess what? No women. Since that time, we've seen a raft of other initiatives and activities from around the country, from all the other screen agencies, establishing their own strategies to address this issue, including Screen Australia's Gender Matters that we've heard about, Gender Agenda from the SAFC, and a range of initiatives from Screen Queensland, and Film Victoria's increase of funding to the Natalie Miller Fellowship. So how has this all been received in New South Wales? Well, the first thing to say is there's been no backlash, not any. The industry has kind of just getting on with it. They've accepted it and they're getting on with it. Our social media accounts have enjoyed huge growth via content around gender, whether it's our own initiatives or tweeting news from international and other Australian initiatives. Gender-based topics receive the greatest reach of our posts on all our social media channels. Our stakeholder base respects and responds to this advocacy work. Several screen businesses and associated organisations have also reached out to us when they want to do a project around gender in the industry. We work with partners to hold industry forums with women who have cracked the celluloid ceiling, and our recent In Conversation with Bruna Papandreou that we did in partnership with Screen Australia sold out in 3 hours. In recent weeks and months, we've stepped up our push for gender equity in the screen sector. We've implemented a requirement that all TV drama series that come into us for production finance must include female key creatives on their team in order to receive development or production finance. That can mean getting the application form in, then calling the producers and saying the money will only be forthcoming when you confirm some female directors on here. Our 2016 Emerging Filmmakers Fund is open to female directors only. And priority is also given to teams which include people from underrepresented groups. And we've had a record number of applications this year to this fund. And our new initiative for emerging filmmakers, announced just 2 weeks ago, who are based in regional New South Wales in partnership with ABC Open, is only open to teams that include female key creatives. I think we all know what these panels look like. We've also announced that Screen New South Wales will not sponsor or fund or support or attend any event or conference that includes all male lineups. We know how limited those discussions are, and we know how that messaging sets us all back. We won't support or enable that kind of sexism and exclusion. Huge opportunities are missed through discussions that exclude the perspective of more than half the population of this country. If there's one thing we've learned through all this work over the past 11 months, creating equity of opportunity for women is about giving them jobs. In this industry, it's through attachments that creatives get experience, gain credits, and step into further opportunities. We know it's not women that are the problem, and it's not up to women to solve this problem. It's not that they're not networked enough, or they're not experienced enough, or just not enough. The problem is they're not getting the jobs that they should be. So we've created some 32 paid attachments over the last few months for women, all of them quite surgical interventions into areas where the exclusion is the most dire and has been for decades. A great number of these have been triggered by women calling us and telling us that they've had an opportunity on a production, but they need some support to make it happen. So we've stepped in and we've shared the cost with production companies. Some of them have been triggered by production companies knowing that they need to do something, but perhaps not knowing how to make it happen. Comedy writing rooms, traditionally very male, we place several female writers on shows. From stand-up comedian to standout writer, Frida de Guys is an emerging female comedian from Punchbowl, now working alongside Will Anderson on Gruen. The challenge for female comedy writers, getting your joke on the whiteboard, Frida did it, tweeted it, Facebooked it, and so did Will. And of course, gender inequity is not just a screen issue, it's a social issue. Out of 190 countries in the Human Development Index, Australia ranks second in terms of overall achievement, measured by education, by health, by income, but it ranks 20th in terms of gender equality. Around the time that we were grappling with all this gender work, we took a call from the Office of Women New South Wales, who had heard about our target and wanted to know if there was a way for us to work together on creating employment opportunities for women in the trades end of the screen business, as this is the year of women in trades. Around the same time, we got a call from Kylie Washington at Matchbox Pictures. She'd been in the audience at the panel we'd hosted at SPA about the gender divide and wondered what she could do in her own patch. She returned from that panel discussion to the wrap party for Real Housewives of Melbourne with the all-male camera and sound teams and got to thinking, called around all the other executive producers right around Australia for all unscripted TV series, and none of them could ever remember ever employing a female camera operator or a sound recordist. So she formed the Executive Women's TV Group with other senior women from that sector, production companies and TV broadcasters, to work out what they could do to change their part of the industry. More planets lined up. AFTRS came on board, as they do for so many of our initiatives. And together, we formed a great lineup of partners, all wanting to play their part. 8 women completed a course, 5 graduates became paid interns on all of these shows on the slides. And what's great about this program? Well, it addresses the significant gender imbalance within the screen industry sector in field of camera and sound technical roles. It provides recognised skills and a pathway to employment. It helps companies to ensure that the work environment on their productions is supportive and inclusive of women. It provides production companies with a pool of skilled and work-ready female technicians that can be engaged to work on slated projects. And it supports the principles of gender equity and promotes the project partners' commitment to address it. So where to from here? Well, we're coming up to the first anniversary of the announcement of 50-50 by 2020, and to coincide with that anniversary, we're once again hosting a gender panel at Screen Forever next week in Melbourne. We're committed to raising the profile of people from all underrepresented groups, not just women. We believe that marginalised groups should not have to get in a queue behind women in order to find a voice and get jobs. This includes Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples, people from culturally and linguistically diverse backgrounds, people with a disability, and LGBTQI people from across New South Wales. Some of our new initiatives and new partners, the Screen New South Wales Annette Kellerman Award is for an Australian woman doing it her way in Hollywood, and the inaugural award was presented last month at the Australians in Film Awards to Rebel Wilson. SheDoc is a new initiative launching later this month in partnership with Documentary Australia and Rode Microphones. It's a fellowship program to assist female documentary makers. We're also talking to other organisations in the industry about what they can do to help the industry make its changes, because we can't do this alone. Screenability New South Wales is a program which will deliver on an open-ended policy commitment by Screen New South Wales to work with industry to grow participation in the screen sector by Australians with disabilities. It'll include an annual film festival at Carriageworks, short filmmaking initiative to finance and deliver films for premiere at the festival and for travelling around Australia and the world and for screening online. And it will also secure long-term job placements. But the first project is for up to 8 participants who will undertake bespoke training at AFTRS with support from Bus Stop Films and then take part in an internship program with some of the leading production companies and broadcasters on some of the most high-profile shows on TV. The NRL Footy Show, Eurovision, Play School, Mardi Gras, with Animal Logic, with Seesaw, with Foxtel, with iView, and many more. Our experience in getting these productions and companies on board has been fantastic. Over just a couple of days, we've got over 30 productions and companies on board. Everybody said yes immediately, in the full knowledge that this experience will offer a paid professional internship for participants, but will in all likelihood change the workplaces that they go into as well. We also have a paid attachment scheme. If you get over $100,000 from our production finance, the production companies have to offer a paid attachment. If you get over $200,000, there are 2 paid attachments. We insist that they're 50-50. At least one woman will get a job out of that, and we also have sign-off on the roles. Some of these initiatives may seem like small projects. We don't have extra funding. We don't have great big programs to roll out. But we're changing all our fundamental and all our core programs to reflect this important issue. Little by little, all of us together, we're changing the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Grania. ScreenWorks has had a long working relationship with Screen New South Wales, and we're looking forward to continuing that by delivering this project and many more to come. Just north of us, Screen Queensland has also been introducing programs and initiatives that support female filmmakers in Queensland. To tell us more about these programs and initiatives, please welcome Screen Queensland CEO, the 2016 Telstra Queensland Businesswoman of the Year, Tracy Vieira. Welcome, Tracy.
Thank you. And I have to say, often screen agencies are pitted against each other. And on this, we're an absolutely united, supportive front. And I love hearing both what Screen Australia and what Screen New South Wales do. And they inspire us in terms of wanting to do more. So I just want to acknowledge that up front. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this event is taking place and acknowledge elders past and present. And I'd also like to acknowledge and respect their continuing culture and the contribution they make to life both here, within the region, and of course within our country. Storytelling is what connects us to our humanity. It's what links us to our past and provides a glimpse into our future. And there's never been a more important time, in my opinion, than now to ensure that our screens tell stories that challenge our thinking, that open our eyes, and that ignite us into collective action to make this world a better place for all of us. There's a powerful movement, again, to see gender equity, and of course it's why we're all here today. And for me, not just as a CEO of a screen agency or as a woman, but as a mother to a 5-year-old, what happens on our screen matters to me. And given that many children engage in screen content from a really early age, let us consider how women and girls are represented on screen. Now, I have some statistics from the Gina Davis Institute, and I want to share them with you. So from 2006 to 2009, not one female character was depicted in a G-rated family film in the field of medical science, as a business leader, in law or politics. In these films, 80.5% of all working characters were male and 19.5% female, which of course is in contrast to the real world. Females are almost 4 times as likely as males to be shown in sexy attire. And furthermore, females are nearly twice as likely to be shown with a tiny waistline. And generally, unrealistic figures on females are much more likely in those productions than on males. Males outnumber females 3 to 1 in family films. And in contrast, females comprise of just over 50% of the population here and in North America. And even more staggering is the fact that this ratio, as seen in family films, is exactly the same as it was in 1946. Now, it isn't enough to present programming to youngsters that's safe and perhaps educational. Not if there are fewer characters who are female than male, and not if those characters are less important and have less important information to share or are stereotyped. With time and repeated exposure, children begin to normalise inequality in storytelling, and then we grow up. And this goes beyond female representation. So let's talk about, really quickly, how Middle Eastern and Muslim people are presented in screen. Let's talk about how people with disabilities are invisible on television and yet are in 18% of our population. And as in a country, I hope we stand up in the next 12 months and ensure that our gay community have the right to marriage. But we don't represent them on our screen as they're represented within our population. South Sudanese Australians, Indigenous Australians, Muslim Australians report high levels of discrimination in our country. And ensuring that diversity on our screen is one of the ways that we can ensure a cohesive society. There's so much data that shows how screen content influences what we do. For example, in the year that The Hunger Games and Brave were released in 2012, the number of girls that took up archery doubled in North America. There was a direct correlation that was researched and shown and proved the correlation between those two things. So I'm going to share with you how Queensland is going to drive more equitable outcomes for women in the screen industry in our state and our plans going forward. And it's key for us because the vast majority of writers in our country are male. So it's little wonder that they draw on their experiences, their lives, their interests when writing, and hence our content reflects that. And it's why it's really critical that we focus on who is making and writing and developing that content. So following Screen Australia's Gender Matters announcement in November 2015, Screen Queensland launched with an event to bring Queensland's women in screen together to talk about gender matters and understand the needs of Queensland women in screen, practitioners to more established practitioners. So Screen Queensland and I strongly believe that there are commercial reasons to back female stories and storytellers on screen. And as a screen agency, we have an incredibly important part to play in that process. There are a scarce number of films that are targeting women audiences, and yet there's a large volume of research and evidence that shows that women of all ages spend more time viewing television than men, and women comprise a larger share of the cinema-going audience. The NPA annual statistic on moviegoers released in March 2014 showed that the majority of people who go to movies are women, 52%, but we're seeing stories about men 85% of the time. In Gender 2016, we announced our gender parity program to support the targets set through Screen Australia. The Screen Queensland's first-year commitment to changing the playing field based on the input from the women in our industry in Queensland is as follows. Oops, this isn't changing, sorry. Sorry, you've missed all of these slides. Okay. So we're having a Women's Filmmaker Showcase to create an online female filmmaking showcase to really promote the work of our female writers, directors and producers. We have a mentor and leadership program to establish mentors and a leadership program designed to pair established filmmakers with early career female screenwriters, directors and producers. We're putting creative attachments on projects and creating opportunities again for women in key creative roles. We're holding an annual incubator to develop and share really the best of expertise with women. I'm going to talk a little bit further about that. And of course, we're going to undertake research and measure outcomes. So Screen Queensland held our first event called Incubate Her earlier this year to a full house. We partnered with QUT and Westpac to deliver an event with incredible keynote speakers with panels, intimate sessions, as well as pitching opportunities. We covered everything from how mentorships work to how to get a great mentor or a mentee, through to delivering female-led stories to commercial broadcasters. We included some of YouTube's top female creators and YouTube themselves to talk about how to create content for their platform and, more importantly, how to monetize it. We included sessions on preparing your pitch and then getting to pitch your actual content. And we included sessions on legals, financing, and how to develop your business. And of course, one day of immersion is just a start. It doesn't finish there. So during Incubate Her, we launched a monthly meetup group called Women in Screen and Entertainment, nicknamed WISE. And this group provides an informal setting for women practitioners to meet and actually build their networks. It's now met twice. We've also launched our Creative Attachment Program and are building into our contracting with productions attachment opportunities for female practitioners. We'll be launching a specific project in 2017 that will be for women creatives and result in credits for participants. This is a major project for Screen Queensland, and we've allocated 7 figures for this program. We are making changes with our call-outs to ensure there are specific requirements that will enable us to increase female participation and, as a result, credits. And we're measuring all of our applications and our decisions, and our staff are being trained in unconscious bias. We understand our role in this process and the impact of our decisions. And finally, this is not the end. Gender and also diversity will remain part of our conscious in our decisions now and going forward, and we will continue to seek new ways to ensure meaningful outcomes and continue to build on what we do. Thank you.
Thank you, Tracy. Our final speaker from the funding bodies has travelled from Adelaide to be with us tonight. South Australian Film Corporation announced a new suite of initiatives in early September designed to address the gender imbalance. To tell us about this suite of initiatives, please welcome South Australian Film Corporation CEO Annabelle Sheehan. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I too would like to acknowledge the original custodians of this land. Always was and always will be Aboriginal land. I'm really happy to be here tonight. It's fantastic to be in this room with these women and also to have some men join us tonight as well. So I'll just move to my first slide. South Australian screen women have already had a huge impact on the global screen industry. This year, it's Rose Myers, director of Girl Asleep, and there's a behind the scenes from Girl Asleep. We've had Kate Crozer produce Boys in Trees, which was in Venice and in Toronto, and that's just to name a couple from the year. But the lineup is strong for us, with SA producers and alumni such as Bruna Papandreou doing amazing work globally, Helen Leake, Sophie Hyde, director of 52 Tuesdays, Kirsty Stark, Victoria Cox from Wastelander Panda. So South Australia's already had fantastic women doing great things. As we all know about Australian women, we're really fantastic at achieving in the face of many challenges. And so it was great to start to see information again rising to the surface regarding the issues that we face and that we're challenged by. We decided at the SAFC to look at our in-house data and explore how we were going in terms of the national average. And as you can see, we're pretty much on track, not dissimilar to the national averages. Hence, it was necessary that we commit to improve the representation of the women in the South Australian screen industry. In every industry, it's a little bit different. The kind of infrastructure we have in South Australia, the kind of ongoing production opportunities that we have in South Australia are completely different to those that exist in New South Wales or Queensland or Victoria. So we are managing a whole different set of issues when we're looking at women in South Australia and how to support them to grow their careers. We launched the Gender Agenda, and a key focus is, of course, leadership and mentor programs. The first program, Placement LA, is actually in operation at the moment. So we have Gina Ashwell, a South Australian producer, is over at the American Film Market with Cassian Elways. Cassian is a producer who produced The Butler, Dallas Buyers Club, a number of other great American films. He's a fantastic executive producer with extraordinary experience in the marketplace. Our decision was to reach out to Cassian and join him with a South Australian woman and to have her experience the American film market with Cassian. And so we think that the important thing for women with more established careers is that they get that opportunity to really make connections and network globally. Next along is Match Me, which is more for emerging women. And the mentorship programs there are to cover all roles. And you will note, those of you at Media Resource Centre, shout out to you watching it there, that the application deadline for that is November 30. And the idea is that you come up with a career plan and perhaps identify a mentor or two that you would like to work with. Perhaps you have already made connection with a mentor. We'll look at your career plan. We'll look at the mentor you've either proposed or connected with already, and we can support you if yours is a successful application. It's one of the successful applications. We'd support you to then build that program over a period of a year. To look into both this Match Me program, it's online under our development section in the website and what's called Career Accelerator. Placement LA will be run again next year, so there'll be more news on that next year. Our next program coming up in the first half of next year will be Screen Sirens, which will be a workshop regarding the market, and we'll be selecting women and their projects to then work with key people from the marketplace across Australia in order to get their projects market ready. And we think that's one of the key things for South Australian women and filmmakers to ensure that their projects are well connected with the market and that they fully understand the nature of what's needed in the market or how to sell something the market didn't know it needed and needs to move on to know it about. We also have our 50-50 target, which we're applying to all areas of professional and project development. And we're generally not too bad in terms of meeting that target as it is. So we definitely want to maintain it, and I don't even mind if we exceed it. Awesome. I think we've been on the 100% for the blokes for a while, so it's not such a bad thing to have some really strong representation of women. Focus on directing. We'll have one dedicated directing attachment per annum on a South Australian project with the funding by the South Australian Film Corporation. So those are just some of the programs, and we're continuing to think through what's needed to look at the kind of crew roles, because I think filmmakers come through so many different roles. It's not just about writers and directors and producers, but we certainly want to look at all roles and to ensure that women will improve their opportunities for careers in the screen industry. I was happy to hear Grania mention the report that the AFTRS is focused on in their inclusive pathways work that they've been doing. It's actually based on a PwC 2016 Media Outlook report, which is really worth looking up, because I was quite surprised to see some of the reporting there. They actually say a lack of diversity in Australia's media and entertainment sector is dragging the industry's growth down. So to finally have it recognised that if you do not draw from the diversity that is the Australian population, your industry will lag behind and will wallow in its stasis. The notion, as Grania pointed out, that the 27 white and male was turned into male, pale and stale. Not to say that... So the thing is about getting it diversified and getting some richness into the system. Another stat that came out of that same report is that 75% of on-air talent on radio across Australia is 35 plus white male. So when you're thinking about your day-to-day, what's running through your ears about what's going on, if you're radio listeners, it's just interesting how that statistic suggests that what are the voices, where are the platforms for people to talk about what's going on in society. And we really need to look at it across the whole media as to how we can diversify the media. I also think it's an amazing time to be here today, the 8th of November. It's not the 8th of November in America, but it soon will be. And this has been one of the most extraordinary election campaigns that I think all of us have ever seen. And I think it's played out for us what many of our experiences have been over the years in trying to develop and build our careers. And we've seen many negatives to that campaign, but the misogyny has been one of the most extreme aspects of it. And to see such competence set up in the way it has had to deal with so much criticism, it's been such an amazing thing and quite exhausting, I think, for us all observing it and watching it minute by minute. So it will be really interesting tomorrow, and I hope we're on the cusp of extraordinary change. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Annabelle. I would now like to welcome Monica Davidson to come and join our panel to help facilitate more discussion and a Q&A with representatives from the funding bodies that we have just heard from. Thank you, Monica.
Hi, everybody. How are you? Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. So I thought I'd start by finding out if there are any questions from the audience for any of our panel members about their incredible funding initiatives. No? Oh, wait. Okay, great. I'm sorry, I don't know your name, so you just have to yell out. Oh, no, Ken's running over with a microphone. How wonderful.
Hello, everyone. My name's Emily. I'm a uni student at SEU. Oh, sorry. I heard in one of them, I think it may have been yours, about the funding for online creatives on YouTube. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. So we partnered with YouTube to look at how we could build careers in partnership with YouTube. We're quite passionate at Screen Queensland about storytelling across all different types of screens. So with YouTube, the way that we worked was we've run a number of sessions, creator sessions, bringing the best creators together with people in the state to really learn from them about how they've created their channel and built their subscribers and so on. But we also have had an initiative where our our creators could create content and pitch it essentially to existing creators from the state who have bigger audiences. So just as an example, we have a whole range of stuff, from stuff that's more narrative driven to stuff that's kids cooking in their kitchen and so on. And it was about creating new pieces of content where there was a ready-made audience, integrating the characters from those existing YouTube channels. So essentially enabling a new creator to have access into through these already existing, YouTube stars. So that's the first thing that we've done in terms of working with YouTube and fully funding some of those to actually go into series. We've also worked with YouTube on, essentially sort of the masterclass of how to build your content. And in fact, what we did with Incubator was really walk through all of the things you need to do to actually have a successful YouTube channel and drive people to your, your content.
Thanks very much for that. We have another question. I think there was just here in the few rows ahead. Yes. Hi. Oh, yes. Hi. Thank you.
I've just been really amazed at how quickly these programs have come about. So I firstly wanted to say thank you and congratulations, but what enabled this policy change to happen so quickly? You only were talking about getting these stats last year and suddenly these extraordinary programs are here.
Sally, that's probably a Screen Australia question since you were the first.
Sleepless I think it was basically shock. It was one of the motivators because I think we'd all been guilty of being a little bit ignorant of how bad, and we knew it wasn't equal, but I don't think we'd realised how bad it was. And so we just said, right, we just got to do something now. And I think more importantly, we've got to keep on doing it because it's not enough to say, well, we've done our initiatives and here's your money, off you go. And I think we've got to keep going and support people. The money may run out, but still support in other ways and keep talking about it.
But the data too is really revealing. I think when you did that sort of process of looking at the numbers and then sharing that, it actually really instigated us all into.
All a bit shocked.
And it made. I know us as a screen agency, we certainly went and looked at our numbers, and again, both in terms of what are we funding, but also what are the applications coming in. And then what happens, like if you're looking at who is in the film schools in your area, and for us as a state, we have, and I assume the other states too, have a lot of universities and technical colleges and what have you that are doing, screen courses or film courses, and they're going in pretty equal, but things are changing as they're going through those courses, coming out of those courses, and then certainly in terms of applying for funding. And so there's a lot of things to unlock there, and I don't know that we'll get them all in the first 12 months. I think that's going to be a longer process than that, but I think the data that Screen Australia did really sort of drove, I think, all of us to make change and make it happen fast.
And can I also add with that sheer fear and passion and lots of sleepless nights. So when you're told from on high, get something done, do it now, and if you've got Jillian Armstrong sitting across a desk from you saying, what are you doing? You get it done really quickly. It took us 7 months to do what we did, and I'm incredibly proud. You know, I'm proud of everybody, but I'm incredibly proud of the team that did at Screen Australia for what we pulled off. And it's going to keep going, Jillian. This is just the start.
So can I just add something? Just for us as well, we saw the figures come out. We were inspired also by ADG and Kingston and the group that Jill was in as well, and asking, so what are you going to do about it? And how do you say nothing? You know, we're a group of a lot of strong women in our agency, and we all have opinions, and you can't say no. It's, you know, to paraphrase Justin Trudeau, it's 2016 for God's sake. You know, really, what are you going to do about it? We also had a new CEO come in who wanted to make a strong statement on her first day in the office. So on November the 15th, we had worked for the 3 months up to that day to get our figures in order. And again, it was like all the other agencies, it was looking at who's applying to us. Let's look at that, and then what percentage of those people are getting approved. Is it that we're not getting applications in? Or have our assessors got unconscious bias, and are we just, you know, marginalising women's voices? And it was about the applications. We weren't getting enough applications. We were getting applications with women involved, but they weren't in the key creative roles. And we don't have lots of money. We knew that we didn't have any additional funds to roll out new initiatives, so it was about changing, a culture change for us, and it was a culture change in how we work and what we do, and a massive culture change for the industry. But really, the industry has come on board with us. They've come with us. When we do this, we put the thing out about saying TV drama, unless you've got a female in a key creative role, you're not getting money. They kind of went, oh, all right then, and kind of, you know, just got on with it. And that's what's happening. It's just kind of, you know, we really believe government money comes with conditions, and that's just the way, and responsibility, and that's just the way it is.
I think it's worth acknowledging or thanking Lumina and AFTRS and their research department and Screen Australia's research department, and valuing research, valuing evidence-based strategic thinking, which is also a big part of career planning, is using real evidence. And I think that's a really important part, that you need the evidence to embolden you to make your strategic planning. Timing, I think, is also true. I think it's true that there was Courtney, you know, Tracy and I relatively new, able to be nimble and bring new programs into play. I think the third aspect is this very real groundswell of change that's driven by social media, that we're beginning to see new voices speaking on media platforms. We've got Clementine Ford on Daily Life for SMH saying what she's saying every week. You know, we need more of that kind of outspoken stuff that says, I'm not really going to put up with it anymore. And I think that emboldens us all to act as well.
Can I say, I think it's broader than Australia too, because in many ways the Sony hack and the hacking of those emails revealed a lot of stuff in terms of pay inequity with actors, you know, some of the biggest actors in the world, where you've got an equal female and male who are superstars, and the pay inequity between those two roles was revealed in that process. And that really started a big discussion, I think, in the heart of the screen industry, which is Hollywood. And, you know, and I think all of those things happening at once, the pushback on the red carpet with actors saying, ask better questions. And I think that momentum is something that we can't, you know, deny. And having that research and data, and having this sort of, I guess it really is a global movement. And, you know, and it's amazing that it's taken to this time for it to happen, since it, you know, last happened in the 70s. How come there's been such a big gap for it to happen again, and not anything changed in the meantime? And so, yeah, I think this is bigger than Australia, but it's really good that we've embraced it.
And I think now that things have been called out more.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. We've got just time for 2 more questions, because we're trying to get back on track for time. So there's one at the back, but there's one lady just here with a microphone. Yeah.
Sorry, I feel bad because there's only 2 questions left, and maybe mine's not that important.
Bring it on.
I mean, I'm a local filmmaker, and I was really impressed with Screen New South Wales' commitment to gender equality. And I saw flash up on the screen She-Docs, and I just wondered if you could tell me a little bit more about that program.
Okay, so that's a new initiative that will launch later this month, and it's with Documentary Australia Foundation, who are doing good pitch today. and it's for female documentary makers in any key creative role. It's a fellowship program, so up to 4 documentary makers will be supported each year to do a project of their choosing. It's not for production finance. It could be for research. It could be for development. It could be to go and sit on a mountain in Nepal and consider your next move. It could be for mentoring or training or something that you just don't have, you're just not able to fund yourself that's actually going to move your career forward. It could be to develop a social impact campaign for a piece of work that you've already done. So it would be very much customised and tailored.
Thanks for that. We'll just have our final question at the back. Thank you.
Yeah, hi, my name's Susie, Susie Forster, and I'm a producer in this area, emerging. Thanks heaps for all the initiatives. It is incredible. It's a little bit overwhelming, actually. It's like, oh, shit, I better do something. But you mentioned, several times unconscious bias. And my son sent me something on Facebook, or he just posted something on Facebook, and it was a study that a university was doing about unconscious bias. And I went into the study and I decided to pick the one on gender bias. And I was horrified to find out I'm completely gender biased towards men being scientists and doctors and probably directors, And it was really shocking. Now, one of you mentioned retraining in unconscious bias, and I'd be really interested to know what that involves and how can we retrain ourselves?
Yes. So we're doing some training with unconscious bias. So there's a couple of things. There is some really good stuff out there already. Google runs a particularly good program, and a lot of that's online. And the thing is, every single one of us has it because, I think it's something like at any one time there's 400,000 different things going through your brain, but you can't consciously be aware of all of those 400,000 things, right? So from the time we were little, and this is why it's so important in terms of that content, in terms of children and what they're seeing on the screen, because really from the get-go, when you come out and people are buying you pink and blue, we're like being trained in... Your brain is being trained to make decisions because we can't process all of those consciously. So your brain unconsciously is making decisions to shorten the process for you. So Google has a really good thing. We've actually engaged an external company to come in and work with our team, and that's a process of actually looking at the decisions we make, how we come to those decisions, so that we can put more consciousness into how we make those decisions. There's a lot of great information out there online, and I think really it's important for all of us to actually have a look at that because every single one of us, whether we want to admit it or not, has bias.
We're starting on a similar process where we're doing studied in the Harvard. You can do an online. Harvard does an online unconscious bias test, just to be aware of it in the same way that you've done it, so that to know what we're all kind of bringing to the table when we start talking about work or about decision making and that kind of thing as well.
Thanks very much. I told you a small fib. We do have one question from the Twitterverse, which is for Screen Australia. It's very exciting, technological. Will there ever be a time where Screen Australia production funding will be legislated at director gender 50-50?
No,
Thank you, Twitter, for being so contentious.
It's a very interesting question. No, I don't think it will, because I think what we're trying to put in process is a system whereby organically we'll get to the stage where it will be 50-50. Now, in an ideal world, you'd like to say, well, just quotas. I know a lot of people do believe in quotas. Not necessarily Screen Australia's point of view, I don't think it's particularly helpful when you see the limited number of applications we get from women. If we said, look, let's make it 50-50, it's going to be 50-50. If you're not getting the applications in, if you're not getting the training in, you're not getting the confidence going throughout the female creatives, are we setting up women to fail? So we go, that's one of the analogies I use, and it just reminds me of what you were saying today, is we actually had a female pilot today on our plane from Sydney, and she said, oh, this is your captain. And I did go, sorry? Captain, oh yeah, of course. And you have to really, every time you do that, kick yourself and say, that's so wrong. But I do think that the analogy is, you wouldn't say, oh God, we've hardly got any female pilots. Let's just take all these women because they're really interested in being a pilot, off you go. You've got to get to the stage where they can fly the plane, or they're going to crash the plane, everybody's going to go, see, women are no good. We always knew they couldn't really direct. So I do think, and it's a slightly personal view, and I think within the agency, maybe Nerida, you speak. There's some different views, but I think what we've got to really focus on is getting women's opportunities. They are as good as men. They've got to believe that, and they've got to be given the pathways to achieve that, rather than just saying, "Here's the money. Oh, I hope it's going to be okay." I don't know. That's a bit of a personal view, but.
And the undergirding of what we put in place was that we're after systemic change all the way through, so that the money that's been put in, we'll continue to put money into the area. We've changed our criteria. We're constantly thinking about it, but we have to get systemic change because we need it to be ongoing. We need to, drop the pebble in the water, and it will keep rolling out until it's a tidal wave. So that's what we're trying to do: systemic change from the bottom up, from the side. We're also in production investment. It's a constant conversation that is happening in terms of who's getting the funding, but we have to see the applications coming in to get the 50% quota, and we're not.
So we're going to take a short break now, just 20 minutes, but please join me in thanking our panel for their time today.
Perfect. Thank you. And I'll just do your...
I'll introduce them and get them to come up one at a time.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back. We're right to get started. Okay. I welcome everyone back. Our next guest speaker describes herself as someone who has never had a proper job. But this guest speaker hasn't stopped her from being one of the most sought-after creative industries business advisors in Australia. After freelancing and setting up her own production company in the early 1990s, Monica Davidson started offering help to other creatives and their businesses. Today, Monica is a renowned expert in her field and runs workshops, delivers keynotes and presentations, mentors individual practitioners, and is also a consultant to larger organisations. Monica can often be found providing lectures at AFTRS and NIDA and is the author of the Australian version of Freelancing for Dummies. Page stuck here. In 2013, Monica was appointed as the first Creative Industries Business Advisor by New South Wales Small Business Commissioner, and the following year completed her Masters in Screen Business at AFTRS, focusing on the benefits of mentoring for women in film. Monica was recently named as one of Westpac's 100 Women of Influence, and in 2016 her award-winning company, the Creative Plus Business Group, joined the City of Sydney Creative Space Project. Please join me in welcoming Monica Davidson to the stage. Thanks, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I'm thrilled to have been chosen to be here. And I've been asked to share with you my strategies for building a career in the screen industry. I think I've been invited to take part in the Athena project for 3 reasons. The first one is, as mentioned, my work as a creative industries business advisor, which is the world's longest job title, means that I help people build their careers in all aspects of creative industry, and of course that includes screen. But I also help people deal with success, which is sometimes more scary than we think. The second reason that I've been asked to be here is because I am a filmmaker. My own creative practice is as a writer and a filmmaker, and I have worked consistently since the 1980s when I made my first short film, and I'm now putting the finishing touches on a documentary called Handbag, which is about the relationship between gay men and straight women, and has an exclusively female crew. The third reason that I've been asked to be here is because of this. So for my master's degree in screen business at AFTRS in 2014, I chose to examine the issue of gender inequity, particularly in the areas of writing and directing. I then took my thesis and wrote a mini version for the Women in Film issue of Lumina magazine, which has been cited several times tonight already, the Women in Film issue, which was pioneered and championed by Sandra Levy at AFTRS and led to, as you've heard tonight, the renewed interest in gender on and off screen in Australia. I originally examined this issue in 2005 when I wrote an article for Metro magazine called Jobs for the Girls, with a question mark, which looked at the quiet death of affirmative action programs in the film industry, a death that I witnessed close up when I graduated from university in the early 1990s. Those were, in many ways, the halcyon days for my generation of filmmakers. By the time I graduated university, 15 years of various women in screen programs and funding support had led to a great number of female filmmakers out there in the world making wonderful films. And I was personally inspired by 2 of them. Jillian Armstrong, who is joining us here today, she not only paved the way for women filmmakers like me by just being visible as a woman doing her job, but she also helped to create two characters in Sibylla and Jackie Mullins that actually shaped the woman that I am today. I think I'm actually a hybrid of these two women. More clothed, but still. The other woman that inspired me was a woman called Joan Long. Joan co-produced Puberty Blues, which was the first time that I ever saw my own life experience on film, growing up in Newcastle. And I was lucky enough to be mentored by Joan when I moved to Sydney to pursue my film career in the late 1980s. And why my fascination with women filmmakers? Well, because I am one. And because, like most of us, I've experienced my fair share of overt, subtle and covert sexism all through my career. At high school, when I told my careers advisor that I wanted to be a filmmaker, I was told that it was impossible. The best that I could hope for was work in an advertising agency, which was arranged for me, and I was the receptionist. At university, I took over as the president of Student TV and was immediately accused by my main rival of sleeping with the outgoing president. The sad thing is that I actually really wanted to, but I didn't because I was worried about that accusation. That was my first experience of damned if you do, damned if you don't. At my first professional job interview while I was still at university to work as a camera assistant on a live TV show, I was asked if I could lift heavy things, clearly, and would I be safe going home late at night by myself. I was later told by the producer explicitly that the only reason I got the job was because no man applied. Later in my career, I wanted to retrain as a Steadicam operator, and I was told that the harness was not designed for girls, as you can see, and that I would have to carry 20 kilograms on the front of my body and walk like a duck. Having recently had twins, I assured the man in charge this would not be a problem and that you actually can't take that off after a period of time, but he still was not very pleased. I ran a commercial and corporate production company for 20 years called Two Shot Media, and for almost all of that time, I never told my clients that I was a mother. Never. And when I first started exploring the idea of writing about all of this, about the inequality for women, particularly in areas of creative leadership, certain pillars of the screen industry, both male and female, told me that this was a 70s issue and that the problem of gender equity had been solved. I'm glad that they were. Well, I'm glad and upset that they were wrong. And the final reason, of course, is that because I have to tell people that I have a master's degree. We've been talking about covert sexism and unconscious bias. I usually insist on calling it my mistress degree. And yes, I also have a spinster's degree, for the record. I believe that my experiences are not unique to me or to any woman in a male-dominated field. But the thing is, this is not a male-dominated field, and I'm going to reiterate some of the statistics that we've heard tonight, if I can. According to an Arts Hub survey a couple of years ago, 51.5% of people working in the Australian screen industry are female. We make up more than half of the audience, as we've already heard. These days, we make up more than 50% of all film graduates, and that does 48% female over the history of AFTRS. We make up many, many more than 50% of screen administration. And what really annoys me is that we punch above our weight consistently. Films are creatively led by women, weigh heavily at the box office, ACTRA and AFI awards, historically speaking, more so than what our representation would indicate. Which then leads to the question, why aren't we in charge again? There are lots of reasons. And my job here, unfortunately, is not to rehash those reasons, although if you would like to read about those reasons, you can download my thesis from my website and have a good look at it. I'd recommend that you get a box of tissues and prepare yourself for a bit of a cry, but it's important for us to know about these things. So, here are my 10 tips for career success from a lifetime of personal experience, my academic work, and yes, a lifetime of failing, because I think failure is the best teacher. So my first tip, just make stuff. Just make stuff. I don't know about some of the other women in the room who are my age, but we are jealous of you. We are jealous of you because when we were you, we had to get one of those to make a film with, and they were really heavy and hard to get. Film was really expensive. We didn't have cameras in our phones. We didn't have editing studios in our bedrooms. It was really hard to just make stuff. I reckon I got my first few short films made just because I could draw a storyboard and act out the whole film, sometimes, if necessary, in interpretive dance. You have access to the gear. You have the means of production. Don't stop yourself from making stuff. Your vagina will not get in the way, I promise. Tell your stories. Don't be ashamed to tell your stories, and don't be ashamed to tell the stories of other women. We are all listening, I promise. My second tip is never stop learning. The day you know everything is the day that you should just stay in bed. There will always be something new to learn. There will always be someone new to talk to, some new movie to see, some new book to read, or some new idea to think about. Keep your mind and your options open. The other good news about that is it will also help you to stay young, I think anyway. Tip number 3, set some goals. I think you need to know where you're going even if nobody else does. Even if that goal changes, you are the one climbing this mountain. You are the one who is captaining this ship. Save yourself the hassle and get an idea of where you want to go and what you want to get out of this crazy and unbelievably difficult course if you do run into sea monsters or misogynists. Both equally bad. Step number 4, find some cheerleaders. Gather around you the people who support you, whoever they might be, personal support, professional support, creative support. Cheerleaders are your advocates. They're not just the ones upon whose shoulders you can cry. They are the people who will open doors for you, introduce you to people and cheer you on when you have lost your way and you don't know how to steer the course anymore. And I chose this image for a reason. Don't just surround yourself with people who support you. Surround yourself with men who support you. Men are going to make the difference. Because this is not a women's problem. This is an everyone problem. And everybody needs to get on board. There are men who hate this as much as we do. Maybe it hasn't been their personal experience, and maybe they couldn't tell the stories that I told you earlier, but they hate it as much as we do, and we need to give them some agency to help us make it different, even if it's just one guy who helps you out every now and then. And remember, when it comes to your cheerleaders, when it comes to your advocates, more than what you know and more than who you know, the secret to this industry is who knows you. The more people who know you, the more doors will be opened for you. Tip number 5, find a mentor. And mentors have already been mentioned a few times tonight. Find someone who is more experienced than you. Find someone who is willing to talk to you and give you advice and help you to climb up the ladder. Do whatever you can to find that person and avail yourself of some of the resources and programs that have been mentioned tonight to help you get in touch with those mentors. But more importantly than finding a mentor, be a mentor. There is always someone lower on the ladder than you. Always. Reach out to someone and give them a hand up. If we each help each other up the ladder, we will all be better off. Women with mentors, as it says there, have, and this is demonstrated in my thesis, greater career success, make more money, feel more confident, navigate the unwritten rules, and ultimately help other people. It's been proven in every way. Tip number 6, lean in. Sheryl Sandberg's book has become a contentious topic for some people, and it distresses me when I get involved in arguments with other feminists about this book. But she pointed out the reality. Women in corporate life fall behind early and lose ground with every single step. And that is true of us as well. So make sure you pursue your ambition. If you are ambitious, be proud of yourself for it. Be willing to lead, and don't hold yourself back. I love this quote. I have births of being a lady, but it doesn't last long. In deference to my grandmother who's watching us at the moment on the live stream, I won't actually say that word, but please stop worrying so much about being a lady. It's just holding you back. You don't need to be polite. You don't need to allow yourself to be interrupted when someone starts to talk over the top of you. You don't even need to get out of the way in the street when someone is walking straight towards you. I don't know how many of you have been indulging in this particularly painful experiment. I have been for some time, and I'm quite a sturdy woman. You'd be amazed at how many men just walk straight into you as if you weren't even there. I recommend that you all give it a go. Stop getting out of the way. Stop saying sorry all the time. Stop apologising for existing. Take up as much room as possible, particularly on public transport. Sit with your legs as wide apart as you need to. We need to have the same expectations of behaviour for both men and women. And if that means that we all have to stop being ladies, then so be it. By the age of 12, as I found in my thesis, and this quote upsets me every time I put it up, by the age of 12, it is clear that both girls and boys have learned to equate maleness with opportunity and femininity with constraint. By 12, we need to be better role models. All of us, men and women, need to be better role models for girls and boys. This is a cartoon that I have always liked. Apparently it's cheating to climb up on the affirmative action box. Tip number 8, practice affirmative action whenever you can. Whenever you can, in whatever situation you can, deliberately and mindfully hire a woman. You have to do it too. We can't all just sit around waiting for somebody else to do it. And what's really extraordinary is how much it challenges people. Having just finished a documentary which has an almost exclusively female crew, I was shocked to find how much this kind of subtle sexism that we've been talking about enters into it. When I was looking for an editor, I asked around, and every time somebody mentioned a man's name, I would always say, I'm only hiring a woman. The next response was always, oh, well, I know this fantastic woman, and actually now that you mention it, she's probably better. Why didn't you say that in the first place? Women get further when they get a leg up. We've already proven that tonight. And the other thing we have to understand is that the meritocracy that we're always being told about is a complete myth. A merit-based system discriminates on the basis of how much merit a person has, assuming the precondition that everyone has the equal opportunity to acquire it and favours those who have more of it. In other words, every time you get told the meritocracy myth, that it is a level playing field, ask the question, who decides what constitutes merit? Because I would argue that in our industry, it's largely men who have been doing that. And from where I stand, men have been getting ahead in the screen industry because they're men for a really long time, but they don't seem to worry about it at all. They don't seem to stand around and think, gosh, did I get this job just because I'm a bloke? Oh no, maybe that means I'm not good enough. They don't seem to worry about the gender bias in their favour, and neither should we. Don't be so worried about it. It's a small step up. You got the job because you were great and because you're a woman. Number 9, take personal responsibility. This is a tough industry and it's even tougher for women. It's not fair. Toughen up. This is a game of musical chairs and there are more bums than chairs. You are responsible for what happens in your life. Make your mistakes, suck up your disappointments, celebrate your achievements, shout about your skills from the highest rooftops, and advocate for yourself and your own agency. Ginger Rogers has famously been attributed, although I'm sad to say falsely, by saying that she was just as good as Fred Astaire, except she had to dance backwards and in heels. Yeah, sure, we are dancing backwards and we are in heels, but at least we're dancing. And tip number 10, insist on better. This is Alice Lowe, the director of the British film Sightseers. And yes, she was pregnant at the time. I have been pregnant on film sets. I have had my babies on film sets. I've had a nanny on a film set. We need to insist on a redefinition of work. We do not need to ask permission to be here. We need to expect the screen industry in all of its forms to make it easier for us to go to work in whatever way, shape or form that looks like. Expect your industry to welcome you. Expect the nature of the nature of your work to accept you in whatever shape you are, wherever you go. Demand childcare. Demand a parent room for you to feed in. Demand whatever you need to make your working life more possible, given whatever demands you might have at home. And please remember, as I said before, this is not a woman's problem. Elizabeth Broderick said this: it's time to stop asking what's wrong with women that they're not making it to the top and start asking what's wrong with an industry that can't retain and promote women. And I'm thrilled that we've been asking that question now and that question is being answered. Thank you. So I'd like to invite some of my fellow filmmakers and representatives from Screen up here to talk to us. First of all, I'd like to invite Debbie Lee up to the stage. Debbie Lee is Matchbox Pictures Director of Scripted Development, and Debbie provides creative leadership to the development of scripted content across a broad range of genres and markets. Welcome, Debbie. Felicity Packard is also here. She is a screenwriter, a producer and an academic. She's one of the writers behind the Underbelly true crime drama franchise. She was the lead writer and producer of Anzac Girls, which screened on the ABC in 2014. Thanks, Felicity. I'd like to invite Kate McQuillan up. Yay. Kate is the co-creator of the children's TV series Dirt Girl World from her home here in the Northern Rivers region. Represent. She and her partner Huey Eustace are Me Productions, creating out there children's programming for a new generation of content seekers. Thanks for joining us, Kate. And finally, Victoria Baldock has... Oh, yay, yes, we all say yay. Victoria has 20 years' experience in airtime sales, PR and international distribution. She's the head of international sales. She was the head of international sales for Southern Star between 1997 and 2004. Victoria contracted millions of dollars worth of licensing agreements, placing thousands of hours of content with broadcasters all over the globe. So please, again, just thank our panel for joining us. I'm going to ask each of our panellists a question, which they are prepared for, and then we'll open it up to the floor. So first of all, I wanted to ask Victoria a question. We were talking on the phone before this panel, and she told me some interesting stories about a mentor that she had who was a man. So would you mind sharing some of that experience with us?
Sure, with pleasure. Thank you. It's just been so amazing hearing Jillian's story. So much is going through my head about, and putting that with how my career went. But yes, I did have a mentor when I started my company, Verve Entertainment, which was particularly interesting because I'd been working for a number of years at Southern Star, which was actually, the sales side of Southern Star was heavily female, run by Robin Watts. I don't know if any of you know who Robin Watts is, but she's a woman that she's a force. She's amazing and just such an inspiration. Kathy Payne also, who was a very, very, very pivotal, who now runs Endemol internationally. So I had these and I was in my early 20s, I had these incredibly strong women that I was working with, and then I left Southern Star to start my own, which is sort of that whole thing about a career in my way and why I did that and things like that, which was actually completely bonkers at the time, but I did it. But the mentor I had, yes, he was a male, and which I didn't really ever think about, because all that mattered was that he actually really believed in me. And he taught me to believe in myself and allowed me to think that that was okay. And I realised actually, and I loved Jillian so much, that in your presentation you talked about your parents, because that was it. My mum did the same thing. She just taught me to, we were just the same, we were people, we were out there, we were doing, you could go to uni, you could do all this, and you just could, and you just did, and this is what you did. And you worked your butt off, and that's what you did. And so, but the tenacity that you need and the self-definition that you need to believe in yourself, I think that's, as a mentor and as a man, he understood that, and I think he also understood that if he believed in me, I would believe in me, and that was going to propel more than, along with luck and timing and
all the other
all
things.
That stuff. Yeah.
Thanks, Victoria.
His name's Michael Duff, and he actually has a company called MindSense that you can look at online, and his whole model is about mindfulness, and that belief and self-definition leads into emotional states, which leads into behaviours, which leads into results, which leads into self-definition and beliefs. It's really powerful, actually. It's a really powerful tool in any,
Fantastic. I also was mentored by a man. Some of you might know him. His name was David Hannay. So, he was a proper man, like a cross between a bikie and Santa. No, that's pretty accurate, actually. Felicity, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about the importance of craft in your practice, because we've talked a lot tonight about career and we've talked a lot about programs, but I thought I might throw over to you. How important do you think craft and practice are in the building of a screen career?
Oh, look, I think it's huge. I learnt my trade. I'm a screenwriter, first and foremost, for television, on Home and Away. I'd written a lot before I wrote for Home and Away, but I learnt so much about how to make scenes work hard, about how to make characters, operate in really confined space. One of my favourite authors in the whole world is Jane Austen, and she said once that, she works on this little piece of ivory, 2 or 3 inches wide, and she also said 3 or 4 families in a country village is great material. It's Home and Away for you. There's something about the craft of constraint, and that comes down to budget. I think learning craft is not only about learning how to be a better writer by going through draft after draft, though that's terribly important as well. It's also about learning the place where the screenplay and production meet. It's about learning how to make why a scene has to be cut, why you have to lose 2 minutes out of a scene, why that whole character has to go, why. How do you retain the integrity of your story when so the budget, you're over budget. You can't have all these things which were written for night have to suddenly be shot in the day, and all that sort of stuff. I think learning all of that is really, really important in terms of, because I'm also a producer, and so learning how to where screenwriting and filmmaking connect was really important. I'd also say I've had just about the mentor thing. I've been very lucky with my mentors too, who really, both male and female, who've really kind of nurtured me and helped me through. So yeah, mentors. Go for it.
Fantastic, thanks. Debbie, I wanted to ask you a little bit about goals. I'm obviously very goal-oriented, but other people might not necessarily be so. What's your opinion about the importance of setting goals for a screen career?
I hadn't really thought about it that much before coming up here and thinking, am I a goal-oriented person? And I'd never really thought of myself that way, but really just actually having to think about it now, I realised that when I was 15, I really had to I made a 5-year plan about how I could escape from my quite strict Chinese family who would never accept me going into anything creative. So I decided at 15 I'm going to leave school, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to get financial independence, I'm going to go back to tech and do my HSC, and then I'm going to get into, what was Newswit at the time, which is now UTS, into communications. So I set up that plan, did all of that, so I realised, it actually set the course of my life, having that very clear 5-year plan at a young age. And then from that point on, really, I didn't make those sorts of specific goals, but every step of the way I guess I have, in all the jobs I've had, certainly in the job I've got now, it's constantly about being goal-driven, although I wouldn't necessarily have characterised it as such at the time. So yes, it has actually, upon reflection, been really key to me.
I don't think it's necessarily the be-all and end-all, but it certainly helps.
I think it's that thing of not wanting to be tunnel-visioned, I wanted to be a radio journalist. Well, I didn't do that. Then I wanted to be a writer-director. Well, I didn't do that. But, but I did all of those things along the way to some extent. But it's been quite organic, and I've made decisions along the way, which have led me to where I am, and I don't regret that. So,
I think one of the most important things as well is to understand that you're actually allowed to change your mind, particularly as you get older and life changes. You don't actually have to do the thing that you wanted to do when you were 15 for the rest of your life, in the same way that you don't actually have to marry your high school sweetheart either. You are allowed to, shift and change and change the course.
And seizing moments, and you do change, all along the way, so...
Kate, I might throw you under the bus, if that's all right.
Go for
it. A few of the women that I've spoken to tonight, and I know it's something in my own experience, those of us who are mothers have a slightly different experience in terms of career juggling than those of us who aren't. Do you feel like answering the big question? How do we juggle our family and our career?
Well, I'm the motherless one. So there's no kids in our family. So I'm the person who made a choice not to have a family. But the people, it's interesting with Jerko World, there was 171 people who worked on the show. 91 were women, and that included the executive producer, series producer, line producer, 2 animation directors across the co-production, the editor. It goes on and on. Lots and lots of women animators. And all of those people were in my care and in my love. And a lot of them had families. And we just made it our job never to make it an issue. I think every woman who I've worked with who's a mother has never used being a mother as an excuse. And any person who's not a mother who leads mothers needs to understand that there are times when they need to be a mum first and somebody who works for you second. And I feel like that's just... that's the journey of who we are as human beings and how we need to work together as great people. So for me, it's interesting because of making a choice about not having a family. I completely respect and admire people who have a family and do what I do, because I just can't imagine it. Like, I just go, I work this ridiculous clock, I do all this crazy stuff, and then I look at people, I think people who know someone like Justine Flynn, who works in the kids industry, who's got 5 adopted Korean children, and like, it's just like, you just go, what? How do you do this? And I think that it's our job as people who are producers, who are employing women, to make sure that we are so up on that and understand that we're living in 2016. Bring your kid to work. You don't even need to go to a secret room. Feed them on set for all I care.
Absolutely.
You know, like, honestly, it's like nobody... I know we live in a bubble. I know that the North Coast seems to be a bit of a bubble, but it's just, to be quite honest, it's not an issue. I love holding my staff's baby.
I have to tell you, because I always had children while I was running my production company, I always had on-set childcare. And you are able to attract some real heavy hitters,
Absolutely.
male and female, when you provide on-set childcare, because you finally give really great people a chance to go back to work and not have to worry about their kids.
We've got 80% women in our team, and so all the time. And so it's how it is. And, you know, I kind of figure, I've been to a lot of offices with men where they've got dogs. Has everybody been to those ones? Cool, bring your dog to work. No, don't bring your baby. Seriously?
It's being universally proven as we speak that working environments that make life easier for working mothers make life easier for everybody. Working parents and also non-parents in the same working environment.
And equally I want to say that it's not just mums who bring their children to work in our workspace. You know, dads bring their kids to work. Uncles bring their kids to work. The neighbours drop in with their kids.
We all want to work with you now, Kate. That sounds unreal. All right, well, I've put the panel on the spot long enough. Now it's your turn. Who has a question for our panel? Anyone? Yes.
Hi, my name is Hattie.
Oh, wait, sorry, Hattie. I think there's a microphone coming. Scurry.
Hi, I'm Hattie, and my background is as a director. And I just find the parent thing, the issue for me. Living regionally is one thing, but raising children now and then thinking about how many hours I put in as a director on a feature film, I just can't see. That's sort of my block. And maybe it's different with television, but it's just living and breathing a film and owning the film and long hours on set and pre-production. And so that to me is one of the reasons for that dire statistic that isn't so talked about. So that's for all the panel really to...
Can I grab this one? Part of my... Sorry, it's not about me, but it is. I know, thanks.
It can be.
I looked at that in my thesis because that's one of the reasons that is always cited for why we vanish, although we are in equal numbers as workers and we graduate from university and film school in equal numbers. Where do we go in the middle of our career? And the easy answer is that we're just all running off and having babies and not coming back, which wouldn't explain the complete absence of women who don't have children, one. Secondly, there are plenty of professions within the screen industry which are female-dominated. Hair and makeup is a female-dominated industry. Presumably lots of those women are having children and still managing to figure out how to come to work. So the only thing that I could do, because there were no statistics for the Australian industry, was to look at some Harvard-based research about women, highly professional women, so women who have a higher degree of training and who have pursued careers that require them to continuously maintain that kind of high level of professionalism. And yes, of those women, 43% leave their workforce or off-ramp because they have children. But they're only gone for 2.2 years on average. The same survey found that 23% of men also off-ramp for the same amount of time. But they off-ramp not to have children, but to study or travel. So we aren't leaving in droves and not coming back. I don't know the answers, but certainly that's a myth that we need to stop propelling. It doesn't help you, Hattie, at all, unfortunately. But it's nice to know that it's not just that we all somehow have babies and then disappear off the face of the earth.
Can I say something, Hattie, too? Like, I just think to myself about, I totally get how much time, energy and effort it takes. But I also understand that we're really good as women to manage, that we're not the only person who is raising our children, and that there's other people in the equation who can come and help us. Because, you know, I wonder, do you want your kids to see that you are a person who goes for your dreams, who has a vision? You know what I mean? Like, that story is as strong as being there to tuck them into bed, to be that role model that says, my mum had this vision and she went and she did it. You know, and she achieved this stuff. And what your children see in you is an example of a lifetime. And I'm not saying that it's easy, and I'm not trying to make it, you know, the whole, this is the Emerald City, Kate McQuillan, you know. But do you know what I mean? Like, there are other things when you're worrying about, was I there for this or was I there for that? Or did you give up on yourself? Or did you back yourself and find ways to provide loving care for them? Take them on set, work with the people that you're working on, you know, find ways around it. And maybe your film, instead of taking 2 years, might take 2.5 years because there's something about your set of circumstances that you need to cater for. But I just think that there's a greater story in there for your family than just, I wasn't there to be at the school concert or wipe their nose or do something else. Maybe something greater than what you're holding in for yourself at the moment.
Can I say something?
Please.
I think it's, you know, it's also, isn't it, it's about finding work practices and day partying and things that work for you, you know. And I mean, I have my beautiful 5, 6-year-old and 7-year-old, and I think that's really interesting that you just said it's 2.2 years, because I was still, you know, as I was going into hospital, I was still on the phone during a deal with Italy, you know, and then it was like the baby popped out and I'm still kind of like, can you just take that? You know, and then there I was in the office with the bassinet under the thing. But when I had Ella, my second one, I just went, right, I'm done. Like, this is what I've waited for my whole life. I want to have this time with my children. And it was really, it was an active decision, and I guess an active plan that I was in a situation where I was fortunate. I could sort of take that flexibility for really until my last one went to school, which was last year. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, hello. Oh, I've got a day again. Like, isn't that great? But, you know, it's I think it's a decision on how long you perhaps allow yourself to say, actually, I won't do this project for the next year, or I'll give myself 3. I'll give my family that time. And then when you decide to go back, it's then finding work practices that... See, I don't try and do both anymore. Once the kids come home from school, I'm back into mummy zone. I can't do it to them, and I can't do it to people I'm working with. I find it really challenging to, you know, if a call happens and they come in and it's like, Mum, and it's like, you know, I've got these signs. It's like, if mummy goes like that, you really have to hush.
I think that
you're on
happened when we were on
Channel
the phone.
7. Yeah,
were you throwing lollies at them to make them shut up while we were on the phone?
Halloween, here, have a lolly.
But Hattie, I mean, every single application I think that came in for the project, I would say 90%. And so I think maybe it'll be really beautiful over the next few days for us to all talk about that out loud. And I think for people to talk, especially mothers, to be able to talk more openly with each other about the solutions that they've found and share them, so that we don't feel like we're horrible.
I think that's the thing, though. We don't talk about it. We just seem to think that we're supposed to insert ourselves back into this thing called work that we didn't even invent. You know,
and then
we're
really
asking too much of ourselves.
We also really think that everyone else is doing it better than us as well, and you're kind of thinking, you know, why am I slamming the milk down, or why am I sort of dragging my feet to the bathroom at the end of the day because I'm beyond exhausted that I could ever believe I would be, you know? And you think, oh, there's no one else doing that, but no, we kind of are.
Hands up, anyone in the room who's thrown lollies at their children to stop them from talking to them on the phone. Excellent. See, you are not alone. And do we have any other questions from the room or from Twitter? Yes. Oh, hi. And then there's one over there. So, yep.
Hi, my name is Yudan. I'm an emerging Indigenous filmmaker, and I'm also 50. And that really, every time you talk about the young filmmakers, I start going, oh, maybe I should go somewhere else. there's just that feeling of, I look at everyone going, oh, they're so established, you know, and I'm just making a pivot and a career change. And you sort of still keep the other job because you're trying to feed your family. And I just find it's a very weird thing being in Byron Bay for 20 years and you can just reinvent yourself like that. And it's like, oh yeah, well this time I'm going to do this instead. And it just works. And you try and break into the film industry and it's like, what? I have to get credits? Like what? What are you talking about? And so I just really want someone to give me some guidance on, you know, like I want to be a director, but it's the one thing I haven't even gone anywhere near because I have no idea how to even go there when the doors don't open, you know. I've done producing and writing and lots of other things, but I guess I just want to hear from the panel about that. Thanks.
Who'd like to take that one?
I'd say that Monica's advice, just make stuff, is the first place to go. The fact is to go straight from not having any credits to you know, lots of credits or to getting a feature film, it's really difficult. But if you've done what Jillian did and make short films, stick them up on YouTube. And this also goes to what you were asking, Hattie. Goal setting is really important, but the goals don't have to be huge. I mean, making an Oscar-winning feature film, wouldn't we all love to do that? But that's a very big goal. I think making a really beautifully crafted short film is a really good thing to do. There are so many competitions, there are so many pathways, there are so many festivals which would support that. So I would start there. I would I don't mean think small in the way of there has to be a little tiny theme or a little. It can have an enormous theme, but I think it's so expensive, it's so time consuming to make film or TV. I would think small in scope, big in ideas, big in commitment, big in honesty, big in storytelling, all of that. And I'd start there. I think that, and get yourself a credit because there it is. Here is my 7-minute film, my 5-minute film, my 15-minute film. I would do that. And then I would use that as a calling card. I would go and hassle Matchbox and Screen Time, and I would turn up with this and say, I want to, can I come and sit in on the writer's room? Can I be a director's attachment on the next thing you're doing? And you'd be surprised how often they'll say yes.
And it's true. Everyone needs a calling card. That's the thing. You know, that's what I always say to people as well. If you want to be a writer, you can't just say you want to be a writer. You have to write. If you want to be a director, you kind of have to direct. And
you'd obviously have to check the terms of the different funds that are out there. But emerging doesn't mean young. It means emerging. It used to mean young, but now it means emerging. And I think a lot of the programs that were discussed, there was no age limit.
I think it's a really, really valid point, a really interesting point, though, the idea of that transition in your career, you know, and how you do that, you know, when you're younger and you've got that, and I think it was something Jillian said too, but, you know, you don't have the responsibilities of having to pay a mortgage and feed your family and all that. You've got that flexibility and that fearlessness that you can just jump all in and do, you know, all sorts of things. But and I've done the same thing. You know, we moved up here 3 years ago and I've transitioned out of running Verve Entertainment and, you know, being overseas every 6 months in France, doing, you know, the markets, and I can't do that anymore, and I can't, but it's just, and I also realised that I, as a distributor, was never allowing myself my own creativity because I was always the bridge between the business and the creativity. So I'm allowing myself this transition thing, but it's a very different stage. But the other piece of advice that I'm finding I'm using again that I used early on, which was from my mentor, that I found amazing, is he used to, when you're starting something, whether it be when you're younger, when you're beginning, when you're emerging, when you're transitioning, whatever it may be, but when you're standing at that bottom of the mountain and looking up, and it feels just that, like this enormous mountain, and every day you think, oh, you know, I'm going to set a goal and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that, and all you've got to do is climb. You also need to, Mike was really big on this to me. He used to say, Vic, 3 things a day. 3 things a day, whether that means I'm going to make my calling card and I'm going to make my short film, I'm going to do this, whether it means today I've got to set up my invoicing system and my blah, 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 whatever it is. 3 things a day. If you finish them early, go to the beach. If you don't finish them, work till 4 in the morning. Because that's the thing about you setting a goal for, because yes, you might have to still work and to feed your family and do what you've been doing, but if it's a really great thing when you're transitioning into something new, because you can't spend full time all week on it, but you might be able to say, okay, really, I can give myself 8 hours a week to pursue my new vision of me being a director. And to do that, I need to do this, this and this, and I'm going to give myself that much time, and I'm going to set that goal. Actually, that's kind of similar, isn't it, to some of the things we're going to cover in your...
Yeah.
But, then applaud yourself and celebrate when you've done those things, because you're on the path, which is really nice.
We just have time for one more. I think there was a lady over here. Yeah. Just 1 second.
Hi, I'm a writer, and back in the day I was a script writer too, and I just wanted to build on that point about mothers and working. I actually quit work when my child was 2.5 because he has autism, and I couldn't bring him to work. He needed my sole attention and did really for 10 years, and now I'm just so thrilled to be, I'm 48, coming back and thinking, I really had thought with the ideas I had from 10 years ago that there would be no question I would be accepted back into an industry like this. So I think it's really extraordinary to have this kind of forum, not just for women, but also I'm hearing all the time for older women or for women who have had different kinds of careers, because I just assumed it was over. And when I did, there was a sort of, it's a hard enough industry as it is, and then to be out of it for 10 years. So as well as being very accepting of women who have kids coming into the on set with children, I think it's great also to be really accepting of women who've quit work for good reasons and had to give a certain, and rightly say for me, give a certain portion of their life solely to that and then coming back. Or they might have other reasons why, ill health. There are so many challenges that we all face as we go through life. And to accept those commitments as a carer, it's incredibly moving to me to hear that people are open to it and that people respect it, and to let people come back in too. So I just wanted to thank you for that. Yeah.
So we're going to wrap it up now. I'm going to hand back over, but I think I speak for the whole panel in thanking Screenworks for the Athena project and for putting this together and for inviting all of us to take part. And although it won't benefit the people watching us at home, we are all hanging around. So those of you who are in the room, do please feel free to come and say hello to us at some point. Can you please thank the panel again for their time?
I'd just like to say a really big thank you to the audience for being here tonight, to our fabulous guest speakers who have just made it such an informative and rewarding evening, and a big thank you to Monica Davidson, who has been so supportive in getting this whole event together. So a big round of applause. On behalf of Screenworks, I would like to again thank Screen Australia for the support that they have given with the Athena project and for all the work that they have been doing with their Gender Matters initiatives. Sorry, turning pages. And a very big thank you to our live hub partners across Australia. We hope that everyone has gotten a lot out of these sessions and the information throughout the night. Thank you to our live streaming crew down the back here and helping us out here in Byron Bay. We will be making that, let's applaud the live streaming crew as well. Taking us out there to the world. We will be making the live stream available to watch on our website, so if you want to revisit anything, it will be there. It's also, you're able to replay it again tonight if you want to check it. Thank you to the wonderful Auslan interpreters for taking our message out there. That's all for tonight. Please take care in getting home and keep an eye out on our website for more updates on our gender initiatives. Thank you very much. Good night.